He put a belt around my neck and choked me till I blacked out. And when I came to, I could see my children under a blanket screaming and crying and calling out for me. And he was on top of me getting the belt to put around my neck. All I heard him say was, one of us is leaving in a body bag and it won't be him. I started kicking, screaming and just hitting and trying to muster up enough energy to get him off me. You know, I get a 44 revolver in the back of my head. He tells us, don't make any sudden moves or I'll blow your brains out.
Kaylee, the pop singer, sort of broke through on the scene while you were still at school.
Learn my lessons in the school of love. If you only cheat once, boy, that's once too much.
There's some good experiences, eh? Like you toured with Missy Elliott, or you opened for Missy Elliott?
Yeah, Busta Rhymes, Missy Elliott, Shaggy, Nelly Furtado. It broke me to hear my son turn around and tell me. It still makes me upset when I hear this.
Kiwis love a thirst. Like Finn, we're making waves. Generate. Switch online today.
Kaylee, welcome to my podcast.
This is weird. This is actually weird. Because I've known you since I was 14. And this is weird, just sitting here across the desk after I've watched you in radio and watched you as a singer and as a radio announcer and as a friend. And now we're sitting here at your podcast.
Is it 14? How did I know you when you were 14? I thought it was maybe like 16?
No.
15, 16?
I think I started promoting the single and stuff like that. And we went around and we did like an introductory. And I met you, JJ, and Jace when I was 14, I think I was almost 15.
So this must have been like maybe 2001? 2000? Hang on, I'm doing the maths here. Damn, girl.
Yeah, and then I actually started promoting the single and I came to Wellington and we did Jingle Bell.
I do remember that. Yeah, you came down with your guitarist, Justin, who's from the band LMNOP.
Yes.
I've got a picture, and I've got a picture somewhere, or more specifically, JJ does in her archives, of you signing my face with a Vivid marker or something.
Yes, and I ate raw eggs, and then on the flight home, there was like a news story that came up, and I immediately felt ill because it said disclaimer and alert to PSA. I think it was something along the lines of eating raw eggs will definitely give you salmonella. There's a salmonella outbreak, and I was like, I just ate half a dozen of raw eggs for money for charity.
And look at you, you're fine.
Yeah.
Geez,
just a little bit cuckoo.
So we that establishes our relationship. We go a long way back. I didn't realise you were so young when the music career. That's very young, eh? Very, very young. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to unpacking some of that because, Kaylee, the pop singer, sort of broke through on the scene while you were still at school.
Yeah. I was at Waitakere College.
Which is baffling. Like it's and this is when charts were kind of important. They were sort of a significant thing. Well, so you were a big deal.
We didn't have social media. We didn't have internet then. So I guess it was a bit baffling. I guess for New Zealand, it was like, oh my gosh, he's a pop star as a child, a kid who's still a teen. So I think, that might have been a bit baffling, but
I mean like baffling for you, like it just bewildering, like being at school, having the number 2 song in the country, being played on radio, being played on Juice TV.
I just thought it was just fun. I was like, I'm just living the dream. Like I used to watch Mariah Carey and all them at the Grammys and MTV Awards going, man, I could do that. I want to do that. All I wanted to do was just sing. That's all I wanted to do. Sing, get on stage and just have fun, perform. That's all I wanted to do. It's what I loved doing, and I still love doing it today.
Mm. Do you do many podcasts? Have you been on many? I couldn't sort of find any sort of like deep dive, long form podcasts that you've been a guest on.
A couple, yeah. A couple, yep. I've been on a couple.
Do you like this? Do you like reflecting on the various chapters of your life? It's been a very, very rich life, and you're still not even middle aged yet.
Thanks, Tom. I think. It's not until obviously you or the people asking me questions, interviewing me, start asking me about my life and those past things that I've done, or Kaylee the singer, or Kaylee growing up, or Kaylee being on TV, those things. I think it's then that I go, oh, well, I have done a lot in my life. I guess I just kind of just push to the side and just keep going forward because the past is the past. I can't change anything about it. But moving forward, like, hey, there's still things I want to do. There's still places I want to be, you know, and see. There's still life to live. So I just don't really have the time to reflect back on those things.
Well, you got 6 kids. 6 kids from the age range of 18 to...
18 to the youngest now is almost about 9 months.
You haven't had time to think or self-reflect in 18 years.
I haven't had time to sleep in 18 years.
Yeah. Now, so we're recording this on a Friday, and you've been up since very early this morning doing the breakfast show on Flavour.
Yeah, it's my new job.
How are you? On Fridays when I was doing breakfast radio, I was like a wreck after work, like eyeballs hanging out.
This week in particular has been a full-on week because my awesome breakfast show has been sick with flu and gastro, and I am the iron gut last man standing. So I've just been jumping into the co-host seat and then jumping into the anchor seat, which is always interesting. But yeah, no, it's been an interesting week. Plus, I'm also being mum in the background. Kids are getting ready for Polyfest. You know, my teenagers are performing, so I really want to see that, be a part of that. And so with kapahaka, there's a lot of things you need to do. Help with the kakahu, making the clothes and all that. Help with getting them to their practices. Help with noho and just all sorts of things, you know, and with their overall well-being. Got to make sure they're fed.
Yeah, you're a machine. I don't know how you do it. So yeah, a breakfast radio show, which is you know, it's a you finish at 10 o'clock in the morning, but it's a full-time job and there's a lot that goes into it. It's sort of like the iceberg.
Well, you finish on air at 10. But, you know, you and I both know that there's still prep for the next day. And because social media plays a huge part in how we promote ourselves now, and because, you know, let's be honest, no one in radio's got money these days. So you've got to rely on social media to do digital content. So we've got to create all the time. So being a radio announcer now, even from when I started, I was like, oh, wow, this is evolving really fast. You're no longer just a mouthpiece. You're no longer just the person who creates content and laugh and just turn on the mic and do it. You have to be that personality. You have to, create content. You have to be that person who is everywhere, anywhere, and ready at any time.
Yeah, and from a female broadcaster's perspective, I suppose there's more pressure to look a bit better than what maybe you needed to do 20 years ago in terms of like putting some makeup on or dressing nicely because it's going to be on social media.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. Look, to be honest, if you're looking at a lot of the younger announcers now, of course, like they look amazing. They're always ready. Their hair's ready. Their makeup's ready. Their facial's ready. I mean, they're much younger. They don't have the wrinkles like I do. They also don't have 6 kids, and they only have, they get more than 4 hours of sleep a day. But, and I'm not making excuses, but at the same time, I think, you know what, if I was to go out in public and see people and if I'm going to be my authentic self, I just have to show up as myself. And at the moment, this is who I am. This is the best that I am at the moment. And, there's always days to be better the next day or to be better for myself, not for anybody else. But yeah, as long as I feel comfortable and I'm okay in my own skin and my body, I mean, it's been through a lot. My body, my mental, my spiritual, my emotional, my physical health. I've put myself through a lot of things over the years. So I'm happy where I am right now. And I think that's all that really matters.
Oh, you're so cool. Oh, you are. Oh no, I've always been a fan. And when you say something like that, that's really cool. You've just got I think you've always had just a really good sense of who you are.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think mainly that comes from probably my mum and dad, very humbling, making sure that my mum especially, she always made sure that we knew who we were culturally. And as women, because I'm the oldest of 3 girls, she just always instilled in us that, you should never give up on your dreams and what you want as a person. And just because you become a mother, just because you get married, just because you have these things going on in your life, doesn't mean you ever give up on what you want in life and where you want to be and that dream, that vision that you always hold on to. And she's always been quite encouraging in that sense. So I think a lot of that I owe to my mother and father, just on our surroundings and making sure that family is before anything else.
Why would your mum say that? Was there dreams that she had that she didn't pursue, or dreams that she had that she did aggressively pursue?
Yeah. No, definitely. So I was
just checking to see where her eye is right there.
No, it is definitely because my mum was the oldest of 9 and, grew up in Rotorua and wasn't wealthy at all, I'm sure she wouldn't mind me sharing that, there were times were that tough that her and her sisters shared underwear, that her and her sisters and her family, they lived in a tent, there was times were tough. And with my koro not holding down a consistent job, there were always things that my mum always aspired to and always dreamed of and always wanted. And my mum was super smart. My mum is smart and so clever. And she joined the army to get out of it because that was the only outlet. That was the only way she was going to get out of Rotorua and make something of herself. And my mum was pretty hearty, from Rotorua girls, out there, but she also grew up in that era of not really knowing her whakapapa, not really knowing who she was. And that was something that she really yearned for. Fast forward a few more years where she meets my dad and they end up getting married and my mum ends up, falling pregnant and having a family. Obviously, she had to leave the army. So then what was she going to do? And that time of having children and just sitting around and being a army wife, as they would put it, she was like, I want more than this. I'm not going to sit around and wait for my husband to come back from overseas and be the woman who sits at home and just cooks and cleans all the time. And there's nothing wrong with that. But my mum wanted more. And I suppose that's where I get that drive from. I want more. So she, at a later age, decided, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to train to be a teacher. Goes to Teachers Training College, and we were living in Manawatu in Palmerston North at Linton Camp. And she ended up going into Teachers Training College, and some amazing kaioko there, some kuia there said, hey, you're not supposed to be in here. You're supposed to be over here. You're going to be a Māori bilingual teacher. And my mum was like, I have no idea about my whakapapa. I have no history of reo. I don't know how to speak much. I wasn't, around too much reo except for the little waiata and stuff that my mum would sing to me as I was a little baby. And I think I was probably about 6 or 7, maybe 7 at this time. And she started Teachers Training College. Of course, I didn't actually get the chance to go into kohanga. So I was just picking up the reo that my mum and my baby sister would talk about all the time and that my mum would bring home and that she was practicing. My mum now, though, is fluent in te reo Māori. She became a Māori teacher. She worked at, full immersion, kura kaupapa, as well as, other bilingual units and things. And, phenomenal. My mum just loves and soaks up languages. You put a language out there and she's like, oh, I'm going to learn. And she'll learn to have a conversation with you in that language. She's actually really amazing like that. And yeah, that kind of was the journey. And I think the fact that she's always open to just learning more and absorbing more, that's always rubbed off on me and my sisters. And so it's just adapting to that environment and just going, you know what, this is living. And I think a lot of that is also from my koro, her father, because he always used to say to me, honk, life is for the living. If you're going to do something, honk was my nickname because I'm the whitest in my family. Honky. So, my I won't tell you what my mother's nickname was. But yeah, so he always just said to me, life is for the living. You got to get out there, make good stories for your mokos, for your children, create memories. And that's always stuck in my head. So I live life like, you know what? I want to create memories. I want something, to be, for me to remember out of this. I just don't want to just do something just for shits and giggles. I want to have it be, I want to do things with intention. I want to have a purpose for it, and if that means I'm helping somebody else, if that means I'm sharing something else, if that means that I'm able to go in there and be a part to help somebody else, then I'm all for it. So, it's that drive of just wanting to be better as a person. I think once you stop learning, that's when you know that you shouldn't be where you're at that time. You need to shift gear and change direction.
That's so inspiring. And what about your dad? He's Scottish?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Scottish dad, Māori mum.
Yeah.
Did you grow up, it seems like you grew up with a good sense of who you were in terms of like Māori culture and...
Yeah, pretty much. As much as we could. My koro was whangaid, so he's a part of that generation, that lost generation.
What does that mean?
He was kind of adopted or orphaned.
Oh, okay.
So his mother died when giving birth to him, and his father died just after he was conceived. Back in those days, when his mother died, he was picked up and sent off to an orphanage, and he lived with various random people, has great stories to tell about those. And
like fostering?
Yeah. Just like little foster homes that he ended up in. Yeah. But he was a very, very sick baby. Princess Tapuia named him Mamairoa because he was a really sick baby. And I guess just in that lost generation, when one of his aunties from Waikato came and got him, she took him back to Waikato, tried to marry him off to his cousin, apparently, and he went, oh, hell no, and ran off to Rotorua. But long story short is that he never knew, and they wouldn't tell him who his mother and father were. So it wasn't until he was on his deathbed that we actually found out who his mother and father were, their names at least. They're buried somewhere on Taupiri Mountain. We still can't find them, but we know a little bit of where we are, and we're actually... I think just as a whānau, we're quite confident in one day the truth will come out, and one day we will continue to find the answers, but one day we will get there. Until then, we know that our koro was an amazing man, and he had an amazing family, and we know that side of our Māori side. Yeah.
That's so awesome. I think once you pass, if you can have that sort of impact on future generations, I think that's really powerful, eh?
Knowing language, just knowing what and who Māori culture is and what that is here in Aotearoa, I think that kind of gives you a little bit more mana and a little bit more pride and a little bit more assertion into who you are. It makes you feel just a little bit more like you belong because, okay, this is what we are, this is who we are, and this is our history. And it doesn't have to be on any particular iwi, but just looking at Māori culture in the overall and what we're trying to achieve and what we've been fighting for, that's got to give you some mana. That's got to give you some pride. Just because you don't know who your grandparents were, where they're buried, where they're from and stuff like that, just because you don't know that yet doesn't mean that you're any less Māori and that you don't belong. And I think once we get past that, whakamā, that shame, and that hurt, then we can start to live and we can start to be and we can start to embrace and we can start to learn.
So your 4 youngest kids, they're half Māori, half Samoan.
Yeah.
And your 2 eldest, are they half Mexican?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
American.
Right. So how do you blend these various cultures in your household?
Oh, I think in the beginning it was kind of easy. Because I had less children. When I was living in Los Angeles, I had to teach myself how to speak Spanish or Mexican because I was always getting ripped off every time I went to the markets. and I never knew how much change I was getting back. And I was like, and I would ask for like chicken and they would give me something and I'm like, that looks like chicken. Is that what I wanted? So I had to teach myself how to speak Spanish.
It's to survive.
Yeah, pretty much. And it was just for asking for directions, just little things. So I learned how to speak a bit of Spanish, and it was funny because I would jump in and out of Māori and Spanish while I was trying to speak to the kids. I'd be like, "Tamilo la kuaha," and I'm like, I don't want them to pass me the door. Oh, yeah. So teaching the kids a little bit about where they are, who they are, and what they're from. Like, we never hide it. They know who they are. They know who their sperm donor is. And
that's their biological dad, your previous partner.
Yeah. And they know everything about him and what the deal is. So I just leave it up to them. The first couple of years, I think I tried to protect them. So it was more of, reach out and try and get him and force him to be a part of their lives. But, as my dad said to me in that, hour of me in tears, just not knowing what to do as a solo mum, You know, why is he not answering? Why does he not want to be a part of their lives? Why does he not even want to help them? You know, here I am doing it on my own. It was really hard because I was doing breakfast at the time, a solo mum with 2 children, no sleep again. Why do I do this to myself? But, you know, just seeing the hurt and the pain on my kids every time the phone would go to an answer machine, or every time it'd be like, oh, I can't talk right now. I'm in the studio. I'll call you back, and never called back. The hurt that they had, that would frustrate me. And my dad just said to me one day, and it was just a light bulb moment, that he was just like, why? Why are you standing there forcing him to be a part of their life? If he wasn't there before when he was with you, why are you expecting him to be there now? And I was like, oh my gosh, why am I breaking my back to bend over backwards to spend hundreds of dollars ringing this person every single day just to talk to his children, and he's not going to answer? And that was the heartbreaking thing. And then when my dad said that, I was just like, you're right. I'm done. And maybe that's just my personality, but once I make that decision that I'm done, I'm done. Cool. Move on. Okay, that's it. I'm not doing that anymore. And life just got so much more happier. Life just got so much more easier. We had great adventures, and eventually I went on to meet my partner, my husband now, and he's been a part of their life longer than their actual father has been, and they consider him their dad, and that guy who just lives in America. But he's been there for them through thick and thin, and is obviously still there, and he's been amazing. And their family has just welcomed us with open arms, and it's never really been a thing. We don't call ourselves a blended family. We don't call him stepdad and step this and all that kind of stuff. It was my children who decided to call him dad. I didn't ever force that on him, and I didn't force that on them. It was a decision that my children made. But yeah, there was a time though that, I mean, I didn't tell them the reasons why I had left, but there was a time a point in my son's life where we actually had to sit down and have that conversation with a therapist. And I thought I was doing the right thing by not telling them and not making my son form a picture based on what had happened to me and based, you know, on him, on the actual father. But
yeah, because it was and we can get into this later, in as much or as little detail as what you want. But it was an abusive relationship.
Yeah, it was, and not that it was always like that.
No,
I mean, we were actually really good friends. We were actually really good mates. That was, I guess, the sad thing about it, is that we could still be really good friends, but the fact that he wasn't willing to work, the fact that we were homeless, living in and out of motels and in a truck, the fact that we were sleeping on his mother's floor with the rats and roaches, like to turn around and see cockroaches rolling all over the couch that your baby sleeping on, you know, that kind of shit is just, that's not on. And nor should you ever treat anyone like that. And it was heartbreaking to see, like, this is the place that I am and this is where I'm bringing my children up, knowing that I had a loving family who would move mountains and earth for me and my children. And here we are in a place where people are shooting at each other, where there's dead bodies lying in the middle of the parks. Like, why am I putting myself in this situation? And then I had to look at the whole thing of, you know, I was done making excuses for his abuse. I was done making excuses for the fact that he wasn't willing to step up for us. I had a fake driver's license. I was working illegally. I was doing things that I didn't want to do, but I had to in order to make ends meet. You know, the 99-cent store was my best and favorite and life-saving store to go to, because I could make a whole meal for a whole week at the 99-cent store. Like, to be resourceful like that, you know. And I think now that I look back at it still hurts me that I put myself and my children in that situation. But then at the same time, I'm proud of myself as well. I mean, yes, it took me too long to make the decision to leave, and it almost cost me my life. But at the same time, I'm proud that I did get to walk away. and that my kids do have an amazing life and they have an amazing father and we have a great family. And yeah, we are at a place and a time in our life, and that my children are very self-aware. And yeah, I'm just really grateful that, you know, I choose not to dwell in that moment. I choose not to live in that moment and let that moment define me, only because if I did, it would probably eat me up. And that's not fair on my children, and it's not fair on me. You know, I've still got lots of life to live.
Oh, that's heartbreaking, because you're just such a giving person, and you want to see the good in people.
I do.
And I can see how something like this would happen. Like, it would start good, and then it would just like gradually, incrementally, like get worse and worse and worse, and before you know it, it's been X amount of years.
Well, it's your typical battered woman syndrome. It is, and I never understood what that was. Of course, I've seen it, I watched it. You know, I knew people that had gone through it, but I was like, oh no, that's not me. I'd be strong enough to say something. I'd be strong enough to do something, but it wasn't until you're in a country with no family, no support around you or anything like that, and you've got responsibilities like looking after 2 kids, that you say something out of turn and you get a punch to the eye. You realize that he's been married to somebody else the whole entire time, and you end up being thrown down the stairs in a broken nose. You know, you get held pretty much at ransom. Like, pick a child, or you know, you're never going to see this one again. You'll be damned if you're going to take my children away from me. So pick a child, and you take one and I'll take the other. I'm like, all right, you've got me twisted. I'm not leaving my children here with you. I will stay here for them and protect them if that's the case. And then when I finally had the courage to leave, he put a belt around my neck and choked me till I blacked out. And when I came to, I could see my children under a blanket screaming and crying and calling out for me. And he was on top of me, like getting the belt to put around my neck. And all I heard him say was, one of us is leaving in a body bag and it won't be him. And I was just, something in me, whether it was God talking to me or something, I just remember that whole, this is not what I planned for your life. This is not what you're meant to be. This is not what you want your daughter to see what love is and see how a man treats a woman. This is not how you want your son to grow up. And that, like, this is not your time. This is not you. I've got more for you. These are the things that I was hearing. And I started kicking, screaming, and just hitting and trying to muster up enough energy to get him off me. And it was his little brother that came through the door from the liquor store just down the road, heard all this because he had locked the door and broke the door down, and then they started scrapping it out. I had packed a bag and I had said to him that I was leaving to go to a friend's house and that he wasn't welcome there. And that was it. That's how it all started. And yeah, I ended up taking the kids and leaving and going to a friend's house, and I'm forever in her debt, because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have known how to survive in the situation that I was in, not being able to have a job, not being able to work. I wouldn't have been able to even feed the children, let alone, you know, put something together. And it just so happened that when I was staying at her house, I finally got the chance to go on my Facebook page, because I didn't have any phone. I didn't have any way to connect or contact my family. And I went on my Facebook, remembered my password, and just another divine intervention, you know, I get a message from Nixon. Hey, what are you up to? When do you think you're coming back to New Zealand? And I was like, why? What's up? And he's like, remember how we always talked about doing a show together? Would you want to do my FM breakfast? I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it. I'm like, just get me 3 plane tickets and we'll sort out the rest when I get back. And if it wasn't for Nixon, Clark and Leon Rat for getting me across and getting me and my kids home, I don't think that I'd be here to tell that story.
Did Nixon know what was going on, or did he just want you to come back because he thought, oh, Kaylee, the former singer, she'll be good?
Yeah.
She's done a bit of radio.
No one knew what was going on. Not even my parents.
I've heard bits and pieces about this over the years, so I knew it was a bad place. I had no idea it was that bad.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot. You know, a lot of things happened over there. It wasn't all glitz and glamour in Hollywood like everyone thought, So, I was kidnapped and held at gunpoint.
What the fuck? I was gonna park this and go back and do the Kaylee story in chronological order, but since we're on this, we may as well get this crunchy stuff out of the way, and then we can go back to the fun stuff. And you said something before about like bodies in the park. That was a rare that happened once.
No, so where we were living right next to Watts Towers, and the day before Macy Gray was supposed to film her video clip in Watts Park, there happened to be a shooting that night, and there was a dead body in the park, and we could see it from our driveway. Normally I would take the kids for a walk around the Watts Park because that's the only place that I was allowed to go. I wasn't allowed to walk any further, not allowed to take them anywhere else without him being there. And yeah, he was there. The person was there. They chalked him out, had them over, cleaned up the park, and then the very next day Macy Gray came in to do video. No one was any the wiser.
Macy Gray's got this little known song. Unless you're a big Macy Gray fan, you wouldn't know the song, but a song called Still, which is it's a domestic violence song. And she talks about the abuse in the relationship, and then then he lights up and he's apologetic and she melts again. It's fucking sad. It's a really sad song.
And that's exactly it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
How long was it good for in the beginning?
When we actually, because I met him on the Coolio tour.
Were you seeing Coolio for a while? There's some articles online that said
no.
some stuff online that said you were dating Coolio for a while.
No. Coolio's DJ.
Okay.
Yeah. Take a step down. So he was DJing for Coolio and I had met him. We become really good mates and everything like that. And obviously, the rest had just followed on. We'd lived here in New Zealand for a few years and that was great until it wasn't. And I guess right then and there, I think the first time that he ever hit me was at a gig that we had been at, and I kind of thought, maybe it was my fault, and I think I should have realised the flags then, but it only happened that once and didn't happen again for another year or so. And then he went on tour again, I think with Coolio in Poland or something like that, and then we went and we were going backwards and forwards together to America and back. And it wasn't until I was supposed to go over, and I did go over to do a tour with Aditya and stuff around LA, and that's when we decided, I would move over, I would stay and everything, and of course, things would work out and we'd find a way to make it work, and it wasn't until I actually moved over, probably about a year into being there, that everything just changed. His whole personality, the demeanor, the whole situation.
Was it meth related or anything, or?
No. No. Maybe I could have made that excuse if it was, but no, it wasn't.
No, not using anything as an excuse. But.
No. But I mean, when I had to tell my son, because we had to go to therapy, and I thought I was protecting him by not telling him the reasons why we left and what happened. I just did the whole, we didn't love each other anymore, and Mummy had to come back to New Zealand and bring you two with me. And, this is where our life is now. This is what we're about. And he still loves you. He still wants to be a part of your life. And that's what I would always say. And they just never talked to him. They just never heard from him for years and years and years. And it got to the point where obviously he was trying to search for his own identity as a young, boy, and he was acting out. We had some situations and we had to go to a therapist, and we sat there and she just said to me, I know you think you're protecting him, but he actually needs to know, because so many people were telling him stories and so many people were saying things that just weren't true, that he would believe all these things. And
like putting him on a pedestal, or
no, they just said, maybe he did this to your mum, maybe he did that to your mum, maybe the reason why you're like that is because of this, Okay. And they were just telling him things. I don't know why they were, because none of it was true. So I ended up just having to tell him, and it broke me to hear my son turn around and tell me. So it still makes me upset when I hear this.
That's because you're a good mama.
Oh, thanks. Try to be. He turned around to me when I told him why we left. And he said, Mum, because he's my dad, am I going to be like that? Am I going to hurt people like that? Because I don't want to hurt my mum or my wife or my children like that. And he goes, is that in my blood? You know, for a 9-year-old to think that, you know, and that broke me. And I said to him, absolutely not. These are consequences of your decisions. And he hasn't matured enough to take responsibility of those actions. So if you decide that you're going to go down that road and hurt someone that you love, that's a decision that you've made, and you must suck up the consequences for that. Whether that's going to jail, whether that's hurting someone to the point where they don't want to be with you anymore, whether you break your relationship with your family, that's a consequence that you will have to live with for the rest of your life. It's not anybody's fault. It's not anybody else's decision but your own. So in that moment, you have to think, if I go down this road, what is the consequences? If I go down that road, what is the consequences? He genuinely thought that the reason why he was so angry and the reason why he was acting out as a 9-year-old boy, trying to figure out who he was, where he belonged, was because he carried this gene that he was an abusive person, that he inherited from his father. You know, so, you know, that to me hurt me more than having to tell him what happened to me, or even just the realization of actually leaving. So, you know, he's an amazing young man, my son, and he couldn't be further than the opposite of who his father was, and mm-hmm. He's just the most kindest, most beautiful person. And I'm just so grateful that, you know, my kids are like that, you know, that they can see the good in people. And he is exactly, you know, that person. Every day is a new day. He never holds grudges, and he's just such a beautiful person, beautiful young man. And I try to tell him and remind him that every day, that he is that beautiful person.
Jeez, I wasn't expecting it to be this emotional half an hour in.
Is that all?
Oh.
We're only half an hour in.
Wow.
Yeah. But, you know, that is parenting. You know, that's, you know, and then there's the other side of having a blended family where my mine and my husband's older son, he actually turned around to us a couple of years ago, and he said to me and his dad that we were hiding a secret from him, and he was really upset. And we're thinking, oh, what's the secret that we're hiding? And he was like, whoa. And he was like, how come you didn't tell me that my older brother and sister don't have the same last name, that they're not my real brother and sister? I was like, what do you mean? And I didn't realize that part of having a blended family. I didn't realize, oh my gosh, yes, that there is that part of telling these children that you've had after the fact, you know, that yes, they are indeed your half brother and sister. And that hurt our older son. That hurt my son. And he understands it now, and he still asks questions every now and then. But I'm thinking, damn, I've got 3 more kids I have to go through. And I was like,
it's a lot of hard conversations.
I know.
Can't you just do it in one?
But
like a group setting.
But then, you know, I have the whole spectrum. I've got teenagers, and then I've got the tweens, and then I've got these babies. So I'm like constantly every day going from one spectrum to the other. You know, so
well, I suppose the babies will just grow up just knowing it is what it is.
Well, and
it won't be a thing.
Yes, and you know what? My our 10-year-old probably would have just kept on going like that, but he's so damn clever, and he's so inquisitive, and he's so nosy like me.
Are you nosy?
Yeah. I want to know why. I want to know how. I want to know, how does that work? What does that do? When can we do it? Why? Okay, can we do this? What was that? I was always that inquisitive kid. Always ask questions, and he's exactly like that. Yeah.
So the LA years, how many years were it? Was it? When was it from and to?
I left end of 2005.
Right.
Came back 2011, beginning of 2011.
6 years.
Yeah.
So 6 years of hell.
Yeah, probably 5. Probably 5 years. 5 years.
And when I know you're a proud Māori woman, but when you're on phone calls home or whatever, what are you saying to your mum and dad? Do they think everything's all good? Could they sense something was up? Did they know something was up?
So it wasn't until we came home that we were, obviously I moved back in with mum and dad, and they helped me out a lot because I was doing breakfast, and I had 2 small children. There were 2 and 1 that were just, needed to be looked after. Well, 3 and 2. And yeah, I was play fighting with my dad, as I always did. My dad never had boys. So, I was the tomboy wrestling with my dad and everything. Probably why I, was so good at boxing and that. But yeah, it wasn't until I was play fighting with my dad that my son just screamed and started hitting my dad, like, get off my mum's, don't go away from my mum, don't hurt my mum, leave my mummy alone. And he screamed and screamed. And it wasn't just a whiny kid scream, it was a fearful, really, really big scream. And my dad stopped, my mum stopped. And I was like, oh, son, come here, and I didn't think of anything of it. And I was like, oh, calm him down and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, he's probably just tired, come on, son, da-da-da. And it calmed him down and, came back down. And when I came back down, my mum and dad were sitting at the table. And, that typical, you're in trouble. They're sitting at the dinner table. They've got a cup of tea and there's a chair sitting there. They're both sitting together and they're like, come and sit down. We need to talk. And I was like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Oh God, you're a grown-ass woman. You're a mum of your own, but you revert back to being little Carlina.
Myself. I'm still shitting myself. And, my mum's got that look on her, that real, and my dad's like, girl, you got some explaining to do. So, yeah, and I literally had to explain to them what really was going on, what happened. And my dad was really disappointed that I didn't tell him earlier, because he said he would have been on the first plane over there, and he would have. And my mum was really hurt, and my mum at the beginning couldn't understand how could you, but you're such a strong woman, you're such this, and my dad's never been abusive to my mum, so I never grown up in that environment or anything like that. So, for us to be in that environment, it was just unfathomable. But my mum understands that, these are some of the things that we have put ourselves in, and I put myself in, and, that I was very prideful, and I was, I guess, under the impression of, you make your bed, you lie in it, and you get yourself out of it. This was your choice. You decided to stay here for this, and you're enabling it. So you need to do something about it. And to some point, there is that ownership on us as women, on us and even as men. You need to make the decision to put yourself first, and you need to stop making excuses for that person, And so I knew that I wasn't actually doing anything good for my children by staying. And in fact, I was making it worse, even though I thought by staying I was protecting them. So leaving was going to be the better option. Leaving and knowing that it was going to be okay with just us two. And I think that's when I was like, okay, I need to make that decision. And once I finally came to, and I was like, right, now how do I actually get myself out of this? For some reason, I always managed to fall on my feet. I always managed to hustle something. I'm pretty resourceful. So, yeah, it's one of those things. But I look back on my life and I don't hate it. I don't hate those 5 years, and I met some amazing people. I met some loving people who I'm still great friends with today. And I've gone through some amazing things that I have great stories to tell. Even to this point where I get to tell my 17, almost to be 18-year-old daughter, hey, I was held at gunpoint. This is how I got out of it. you know? So, and she's like, okay, ma'am, I know. I'm like, if you're ever in that situation, you know, because you just never know. You think you can walk around and think, this is never going to happen to me. Me and a friend are going for a walk. I'm at the point not knowing that I'm 3.5 months pregnant with my oldest daughter. And
so she's been held up at gunpoint too, arguably.
Technically. You know, I get a 44 revolver in the back of my head. And I'm walking with my friend. So we both just stand still, Debs Park, El Monte. And he tells us, don't make any sudden moves or I'll blow your brains out. And I can feel the gun in the back of my head. I can feel that it's quite large. So I'm not going to move. I won't even blink. Please believe I was like trying to take the most smallest breaths. And then I slowly turn around and he's got it in my forehead this time. And then he puts it down to my chest. And from that moment on, I don't take my eyes off him. It was something that my dad always said, because my dad was military police in the army. And he always said, you know, you always stay calm. Never panic if you're in any situation, because it's not going to help you. You can't think straight when you're panicking. Fight or flight or freeze. Which one are you? I now realize that I am the fighter. And
I could have told you that.
yeah, pretty much.
If I was to go with the gun, I'd be like, oh no, not here.
And he took us down a bank. He told us that he wanted to do some really hilarious things, if I could put it lightly, and that he wanted us to undo our shoelaces and tie each other up. Of course, I pretended not to know how to tie a knot, and you know, make it look like as if I can tie a knot. My friend at the time, she had just had a baby and also had an operation for gallstones. So there was a point when he took us down this bank in this park that I was like, I can run really fast. Let me just pull you. I will pull you. Please believe. I was like, all you have to do is just let your legs just run. And she was like, no, we can't. Because at the bottom of that bank was another gang occupied area. And yeah, that was like, she's like, we don't know if that's his hood. We don't know if that's his people. And I was like, damn, okay. Like, I'm going to trust you. I don't know any different. But when he said what he wanted to do to us and for us to tie each other up, that she started convulsing and gagging and things like that. Sorry if you're a bit squeamish. And he was like, what's wrong with you? You know, and I remember her saying, we're sick. I'm sick. I'm really, really sick. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm still standing there holding shoelaces going, yeah, we're sick. We're sick. And I'm looking around because I'm thinking, it's a park. It's grubby. It's dirty. Like, where's a can? Where's a bottle? Where's something that I can pick up to stab him? I was ready to kill him. I was ready to commit murder in order to save my life. And I can say that, you know, openly, because I was not willing to do the things that he was saying to do, and I was not willing to be shot, and I was really looking for something to hurt him with. And if that meant stabbing him in the throat with a Coke can or finding a piece of broken glass and trying to cut him with it, then I was willing to do that and to make a run for it. But then at the same time, I was also like, I can't let her stay here. She couldn't run because not only was there that gang peg down the area, down the bottom, but she had also had fresh stitches from her gallstone operation. So yeah, I'm sick. What are you guys sick with? And all I could think was chlamydia or HIV, and you can get rid of chlamydia. So I was like, we're HIV positive. And he was like, what do you mean? He was like, I said, we got tattoos, and we come from a support group, and we're each other's support people, making sure that we check in on each other, take medication together. She's late for her medication. He was like, what do you mean? And she's like, now at this point, she's on all fours, like gagging, frothing at the mouth, like she's actually in a panic state. And I'm just spinning the biggest bullshit lies out of my mouth. and he's like, well, you can do other things. And then I'm thinking, you put that thing near me, I'm going to bite it off. But at the same time, like, I was just really trying to cut through the the high, the person that I could, the glazed over person who was high, obviously on drugs, and cut through and trying to, I don't know, in my head I'm like, if I can just get to the person that's human inside there, if I can just talk him down. And I'm like, come on, man. Like she's you don't want to be a murderer and a rapist. Like she's really sick. She needs her medication. Like we got HIV from getting tattoos. I didn't have any tattoos at that stage, by the way. So lucky he didn't ask me, where's your tattoo?
Yeah, what did you get?
But, you know, I just like, come on, man, like, you know, just let me go back and get the medication. I'll come right back, blah, 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 you know. And he's at this stage, he's now pacing. He's like trying to think. The gun's come down now and I'm still standing still. I'm not trying to make any sudden movements. And he's pacing back and forth, looking at her, looking at me. And he's like, fine, you've got 10 seconds, run and then come back. And I was like, yeah, okay. And I just looked at her and she was like, just go. And he's like, I ran and my heart, like, can you imagine like running with a camera and the camera's just going all over the place? That's what I felt like when I was running up that hill and sprinting across the car park. Like I had a sense of a direction, but I actually didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't know what I was looking at. It was just shaky camera, trees and park and pathways and benches. And I was like, shit, what do I do? Okay, I'm out. Okay, I need to get a phone. I need to get to police. I go to 3 cars in the car park and they lock their doors and they wind their windows up. You know, you would never get that here in New Zealand. Someone would help you. But there, they don't want to be a part of anything. And it was this old Mexican man who didn't speak a lick of English. And I was like, dámelo la teléfono, la teléfono, la policía. And he was like, sí. And like, I was like, dámelo la teléfono. And he's like, okay. So he gives me his cell phone and I think this is the first time I've ever realized that I actually did this, but I called 111.
Oh, instead of 911. Clearly you're not a kid that was raised on The Simpsons.
or police, you know, 911. But yeah, so it didn't go through the first time. And then I'm shaking. He gives the phone. He's saying, and anyway, I get there. At that stage, more people start coming down and a ranger's truck comes through. And I tell him what happened and he turns on his siren. And the guy that was down there who held us with the gun, does a runner, barricades himself in the house. It was on Fox News as well. The helicopter, police, dogs, all that, track him to this house. And he was at his grandma's house, barricaded himself in there for almost 24 hours. Turns out when we ended up going to court that the day before he had actually raped and beaten an actual young girl. And because he had done it, he thought he could do it again. And she unfortunately went home and had a shower. And so they couldn't get any evidence. But she had made a police report. We were that corroborative story. During that altercation, he had left some marks on some of her items, so they had fingerprints. At one stage when we were down there, my friend needed a bag. She was like, I can't breathe. And the only thing that I could see was a plastic bag that was buried in the dirt, so it was underneath the dirt, kind of like the old school fruit bags we used to have. I said, oh look, there's a bag. He goes, pick it up, holding the gun at me. I grab it, and for some unbeknown to me reason, I pick it up. But when I pick it up, I pull it inside out. So where the dirt was, that is now on the outside. He gets his hand and his whole handprint is now on that bag and he gives it to her. She then takes the bag and she's turned it inside out again. And when she's blowing on it, it's now pressed his handprint somewhere on that. And so they were able to get a full handprint plus my fingerprints and her fingerprints on there that matched those fingerprints. On top of the fact that my description, because I never took my eyes off him, I could pinpoint every freckle, every little piece that was on his face down to his neck, and what was written on his clothes that they got, and fibres that they found, which was my hair, the girl from the day before that he had raped, her hair and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, ended up having to go to court and stuff and testify. But
Jesus.
Yeah, but when we think about it, and both me and my friend at the time, we've talked about it since and stuff, and we kind of laugh a little bit because, gee, we were such actresses. Shortland Street, where you at?
Wait, why didn't you, instead of coming up with that elaborate story, did you not think to go, please, like, come on, I'm pregnant.
I didn't know I was pregnant.
Oh, you didn't know?
No,
oh, okay.
no. But I did say that she was a mum. And I did say that she had a baby. There was lots of things that I tried to do and stall, and he was getting angry, so I knew not to piss him off anymore.
You didn't have time to work out the plot.
Yeah. I was just improvising with what I had. Come on, Dom. But I'd watch enough CSI.
How was the whole court and testifying process?
The whole jury cracked up laughing when I told them. Because obviously his lawyers were trying to say I was lying, that I didn't actually see this person, how could I do that? Because when I told them, they were like, well, how did you get away? How come you're the only person that got to get away? And when I told them that we had HIV, because, if I could only think of two things, chlamydia and HIV, and chlamydia you can get rid of, the whole jury just cracked up laughing. And they were like, well, if you lied about that, how do you know you're not lying about seeing this person? Right. And I said, because he has a mole right next to his nose on the right-hand side of his face, because he has a scar next to his eye, on his left-hand eye, because he has a line through his left eyebrow. And they were like, oh, okay, because he had Pro Club written on his toggles of his jumper.
Wow.
He had a cut under his fingernail. I couldn't see any bullets in the actual barrel of the revolver, but I always knew that there might be one in the chamber, and I didn't know. You just never know. And I didn't want to take the chance. At all.
You tell your parents in New Zealand about stuff like this, right?
Oh my gosh, my mum just still to this day, she's just like, I just can't believe it. She's like, I just can't believe that you would put yourself in that situation. I just can't believe that this stuff happens to you. She goes,
you didn't put yourself in any situation though.
But then she's just like, and look at you now. I'm like, well, Mum, God only gives us stuff that will make us stronger. And obviously I needed to be stronger to battle through, 9 weeks sitting in hospital with a baby who wasn't doing great, or, like to put me in a place where I was going to have to, be a lot stronger. Maybe it was for a situation where I can educate some people. Maybe this has happened. There's got to be a reason. And
but are you thinking this way at the time when you're going through this adversity, or is it
hell no? I'm like, what's the chances? And even the police goes, this is a 1 in a million chance that this could ever happen to just perfect strangers, because 9 times out of 10, the person who is attacking you, the person who's hurting you, is known to the victim.
Right? Yeah, like your DV situation.
Yeah.
And what about the drive-by shooting? There was a drive-by shooting incident as well, eh?
Oh, so we had just moved out of the house in Long Beach, and the people that we were staying with obviously had some beef with the local gang, and they ended up shooting up the place, which was a common occurrence in Long Beach.
So, like,
you know what? Nothing ever happened to me in Compton. Nothing ever happened. They talk about Compton, NWA. Nothing ever happened to me in Compton. And I met some really amazing people in Watts. Mm-hmm. But I also saw some really out the gate shit in Watts. But, but that is everyday life over there. That is a common occurrence over there. And it's starting to be that here in New Zealand. The fact that I would hate for us to get to the point where we start locking our doors and winding up our windows and not helping people who need help. That's when we really need to go, what is wrong with us?
Yeah.
And that's the sad part. When we're not opening our eyes, opening our doors and lifting a hand out to people who are in trouble, who need help, that's when we really need to start looking at ourselves as humans.
Yeah, when you stop assuming that people are good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad. And I don't want my kids to grow up like that. But then I also don't want my kids to grow up being naive as well, that this is what this world is coming to. And now that's so hard, raising kids in this day and age with social media, because I never had social media. Gosh, if I had social media when I was a teenager, I was a naughty teenager. Right up until Broken Wings came out, I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, yeah, in what way?
Oh, I got caught in a stolen car with my very first boyfriend. We got rammed by the police in Auckland City. I can say these things now. Gosh, can you imagine if I said it when I was at Broken Wings and Can You Feel Me? 1+1 came out. The record company, Adam Holt would have had a heart attack.
Adam Holt, the boss from Sony Records? Universal Records. Records.
Gosh, they would have been like, Kaylee, what are you doing?
Yeah. All right. Well, since you brought it up, we'll poke around the teen pop princess stuff for a second, because this is a fun part of your story. That's thanks for sharing all that stuff. It's pretty bleak, eh? It's a bleak chapter. How much?
I'm okay talking about it.
Yeah. How much? No, I mean it's a lot to go through. It's a lot of fucking baggage. How much of it? Like, to what extent do your kids know? I've read bits and pieces, but when it's in like a Woman's Day story, it's just like a little paragraph or a.
I think my older kids, they know a bit. You know, should the younger ones ask, then I'm happy to tell them the story and stuff like that. When they get to a point where they can actually understand,
for sure.
Like, I'm not going to tell my 6 and 10-year-old, about it, and they won't understand. They just see movies and they'll just think, oh my gosh. But my older ones, they understand. My soon-to-be 18-year-old daughter's just like, oh, okay, here we go. And I'm like, don't just say here we go. You actually need to open your eyes, open your ears, pay attention. Don't think that this is all like, sprinkles and bloody cream on top of ice cream and stuff. Like, there's actually sick-ass people out there, as my dad would say, sick puppies. But, yeah. And I guess, my daughter is me. She's my little mini me. We were born on the same day, around the same time. She is me. And so I can just see her just being so hard-headed that she's going to be that girl who has to learn the hard way by falling on her face. And unfortunately, that is probably my demise, my character.
Oh, blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Blessing and a curse. So your daughter, she's the eldest.
Yeah.
She's how old?
She's 17, almost 18. Right.
See, by the time you were her age, you were no longer
my
the
album
new hot
was coming
thing.
out.
Right.
My album was coming out by then.
Yeah, I mean, it must be baffling for you to see her as a mini-me and think, by the time I was your age, I'd done this.
You know what's baffling? My 10-year-old asking me what those shiny things on the wall are. What are those, Mum? And my
like gold discs.
My 16-year-old son's like, those are Mum's albums. Those are Mum's singles. Those are her CDs. Mum, what is a CD? I'm like, shit. Oh my gosh. So then Sharon Casey gives me the cassette. I bring that home and I show the kids. They're like, what is this? And where do you put it? I'm like, you know what? Don't worry about it, kids. I'm just Mum.
That's so cool. So how did that come? So your songs were the first one was a cover of the Mr. song Broken Wings.
Yeah.
Then it was there were some others. 1+1+1 it ain't 2.
Yeah.
Can you remember the lyrics to that song? What are some of the?
I've learned my lessons in the school of love. If you only cheat once, boy, that's once too much. So do the math while I'm leaving you. 'Cause 1+1+1, it ain't 2.
And then Can You Feel Me with the great brother D?
Can you feel me, baby? I got the honey, jump with the whip, the jet to the party. Yeah, Haley Holt was the one who drove the Jeep in that one, eh?
Oh, actually?
Yeah.
The Jeep on the beach.
She was the only one with a driver's license, full driver's license.
I know. How did she get into that? How did she end up in the video?
I think she was friends
so
with the person who was casting some of the other people to be in the video. And yeah, she was the only one with a driver's license, a full driver's license. and we actually got the car stuck in the mud, in the sand at Bethel's. It was so hilarious. I crack up laughing now.
Yeah. Oh, and then there was a ballad, Lifetime Left to Wait.
A Lifetime Left to Wait, yeah.
I know your back catalogue. I got you.
Oh, I know.
These were big songs. These were massive songs.
You think?
So, yeah, they were at the time, massive.
Yeah,
massive songs. Like
it wasn't for
radio hits, chart hits on Juicy.
Zed and Lady Marmalade, they probably would have went number one, Broken Wings and Can You Feel Me?
Mm. Yeah, and this is when the charts meant something. And this is like pre-downloading. I don't know, maybe was there LimeWire or...
Yeah, I think maybe there was.
Yeah. But you basically had to buy them like as a single or
yeah, we actually
CD
had
single.
signings in CD stores, guys. Did you ever host any of those?
I think so, yeah, like at a Sounds Mega Store or something.
So I was working at West City at JJ's while Broken Wings came out and all that kind of stuff. I still had to have a part-time job, as does most New Zealand artists still to this day. Still have to have a part-time job. It's not a $1 million deal, you know, and urban music is really, really hard to sell in New Zealand. So anyway, I was working at JJ's selling jeans, as the Herald put it. And hey guys, I've got to go on my lunch break for the next hour and a half because I've got to go next door to ECM and do a signing. So go across, do my signing, and then come back to work.
How did it all come about? Like, how did you get like discovered or spotted or signed?
Gosh, you want the short or the long?
Oh, well, we can go long.
So the long story is I was at Waitakere College, had just started there from Auckland Girls. I was in Kahurangi there. Obviously, really hard to go from Whenuapai into K Road every day on the buses and stuff. Of course, might have been playing up a bit, I think, as a 13-year-old over there. I can't remember.
Really, in what way?
Oh,
just smoking ciggies?
No, never smoked cigarettes. I was just not doing my schoolwork, I guess. Right. So just playing up in terms of, I think,
just not applying yourself.
Yeah. And I guess kind of just trying to figure out who I was, where I fit in and things like that. And, you know, I think my parents were more worried about K Road than anything. But, you know, having to catch a bus at 6 o'clock in the morning to go to school and not getting home until 7:30 at night because I'd have netball training and stuff like that, you know, and my parents were working in West Auckland, so it's not like it was easy to get out to the city. So anyway, ended up going to Waitakere College. My other sister started as well. And I was just having a laugh with a friend, and she decided, she was like, hey, want to go and watch all the auditions for the school show? Let's go have a laugh. I was like, cool, okay, sure, why not? Didn't have anything else other than eating my lunch at school. Went in there, sat there, ate my lunch, had a laugh. And Mr. Nightingale, the music teacher there, ended up saying, okay, you're up next. And I kind of choked on my sandwich and was like, sorry, sir, I actually don't know the song. I just came to have a laugh. And he was like, that's okay. I'll play. You just tell me what song you want to sing. And I went, okay. I was like, do I have to look at everyone? I was so shy. The only other performance that I'd ever done was with kapahaka, and you're standing in rows with people and you're doing actions and stuff. So, you know, I wasn't ever standing on a stage by myself. I'd never stood on a stage by myself. So I was really shy. And he's like, you can turn around and face me. That's okay. And so I stood there and I did Always Be My Baby by Mariah Carey. Yeah. And he was like, that's great. Cool. Go sit down. I was like, gosh, like that really humbled me. I've never gone to an audition to laugh at people ever again. But it got whittled down, I think, from like 300 people or something like that to the last top 10. And then I got the lead role in the school show. And that really opened my eyes. And it was probably the first time that I was like, oh, I must have something. Then, I mean, my parents had always got me and my sisters up to sing. You know, uncle's having a birthday party, mum and dad are, you know, at the mess, at Sergeant's mess, come and sing for your aunties, you know, all that kind of stuff. So we always got up and had a sing song. Mum would get on the gat. My mum was a singer, you know, she loves singing. Her and her sisters sound beautiful together. So, you know, it was just, that was the only way we sung. But to get up on my own, that was a bit, you know, nerve-wracking. Did that, and then gave me a little bit more confidence. And he was like, look, I think you should do a duet for this talent quest. I think you should do a solo for the talent quest. I'm like, okay. So he taught me a lot about stage presence and how to hold myself on a stage. And then putting that together with actually listening and harmonizing with what I knew with kapahaka, I kind of just developed this formula for myself of like, okay, this is what I'm going to do on stage. And then watching the MTV shows, I'm like, this is actually where I want to be. This is my vision. This is my dream. While I'm playing netball and representative netball and rugby and things like that, I end up looking in the, what do they call it back then? The Western Leader.
The local paper. The free paper.
Yeah. And in the back was a little ad, and it said, singers wanted audition, please contact this number. So I contacted the number and I went down. I got on the bus myself, caught the bus into the city, into High Street. And
so you're 15? 14?
I'm 14. And I went up to this office. God, now I think about it, I'm saying it out loud, it sounds really creepy. Like I would never let my daughter do this. Gosh, what was my parents thinking? Well, my parents actually didn't know. I went to an audition and I sung Always Be My Baby, Mariah Carey. And I think I had a big black eye and a scratch down my face from playing netball too. I think I was still in my netball gear. And when I think about it. And I got a call back. And sitting there was Keith and Maddie J. Keith, I can't remember his last name. I've said a mind blank. But Keith. And Keith was the actual guy who wanted to put a group together, and he enlisted the help of Maddie J. So got the call back, and I had to tell my mum, hey mum, I went to audition for this group and they want me to come in for a second audition, but I have to bring you. And she's like, you did what? And my mum actually said to me, do you think you're good? Do you think you're good enough? And I was like, yeah. But if they don't like me, then that's all good too. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You know, they say no. Oh, well, that's okay. They could say no. Just go and do something else. And my grandmother always used to say, you know, how are you going to say no to something if you don't give it a try? You know, so I always looked at it like that. Well, how am I going to know if I don't give it a try? Well, just what's the worst that can happen? They say no, sweet. Just move on to the next. So I went down with my mum. And my mum is just like, I don't know what my crazy daughter's done here. Where are we going? Where are you taking me to? Like, you know, and you know, the old buildings in High Street like look really creepy. Yeah. Like, here's these long corridors, these little doors, like, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, like 1920s, 1930s sort of office buildings.
Really dark. Yeah. Not well lit. Like, how is this 14-year-old daughter like walking through these things like, yeah, come on, Mum, let's go. Anyway, I get there and Maddie J's like, look, we really think that you could be a part of this group, blah, blah, blah. We've got these songs. We want her to come and record the song and be a part of this group. So, cool, I'm a part of the group. We start recording, do a photo shoot, and we record Broken Wings, Lose My Cool, and I think we did a rough of Hunger, if I remember rightly.
Was it going to be like a New Zealand version of sort of like TLC or D-Child?
No, see, it was myself, Keith, this amazing Korean man, Keith, and oh my gosh, I've just had a mind blank. He was Barbados and I think part Kiwi. Jamal, I mean, I can't. I'm so sorry.
Baby brain.
Yeah, it was well over 20-something years ago. But he was an amazing singer, and I really thought, oh my gosh, like he could really be somebody. But yeah, we did the demo, and Maddie J shopped it to the record companies, and apparently they saw the pictures, they heard it. And they said, look, we like it, we love the songs, but we just want the girl. And that's how it all kind of started.
Oh, because you had like the X Factor or the star power or whatever you want to call it.
I guess, yeah. And, it was that torn decision. Like, it kind of felt like Pink being Alicia Moore out of her group, that whole, do you ditch the crew that you've started this with and you're really on this cool journey with, or do you jump straight into being yourself? And, of course, there were people saying, you got more success making it as a group first than you do as a solo artist, or you could be a solo artist, but you could flop. So, no one's going to be there for you. And so it was all of that kind of stuff. And then, went into the recording studio, we started recording. Maddie was writing a lot of the songs and producing so many of the songs. He already had a vision of where it was going to go. And it was great. He's such an amazing artist, such an amazing writer. I still feel like he didn't get his full, shine, his flowers here in New Zealand, because the man to this day is still writing, still producing, and still can sing his ass off. Like, it's really, it's really sad, because we do have so many talented people here in New Zealand. And then, we did the album, we did the singles, and we put them out. So, the rest is just history.
Can you remember the first time you heard one of your songs on like radio or Juice TV?
Oh, it was on the radio. I was walking home. I was after school, and my auntie, my next door neighbour, my auntie Sue, bless her, was coming to pick up one of her daughters at the local Christian school across the road. I did not go to that school. and I'm walking and she's beeping the horn. And it was my single on the radio being played. I think it was on ZM.
Broken Wings?
Broken Wings. And she's like, you're on the radio. And I was like, what? She goes, you're on the radio. And she's like, beeping. And of course, we all crowded around her little Rav and we're like listening to the song. And she's like, oh, Carl, see, this is you. You're on the radio. You're cool. And I think it was a bit surreal. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like I was like, oh, I wonder what happens next. I was like, okay.
Yeah, what was it like being a school kid at that time?
Well, my mum was adamant that we had to have an education. My dad was just like, you just keep your nose above water. So, your head above water, keep your nose out of trouble. But I kind of was still allowed to be a kid, but then switch into these moments where I had to be Kaylee. So they didn't think that Carlina, which is my real name, sounded poppy enough. It sounded too prim and proper, too, country bumpkin type thing.
Too honk.
Yeah. Maybe I should have been honk. It just sounded too nice. They said, too girl next door, just too nice. And I was like, oh, okay. And they were like, what if we just take the K and the L and the EE out of it? And that's where Kaylee came from.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not like a family nickname.
No. Carl's, most of my family can be K or Carl's. Yeah, so it's not a nickname or anything. It's just an abbreviation of the letters out of Carlina, little acronym type thing. Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah, so it's nothing special. Kaylee, it's my alter ego.
Amazing. But were you a big deal at school?
Nah, I didn't think I was. But then again, like, probably would have got into a few punch-up fights if I thought that my head was too big for my boots. Like, that was kind of,
drag you back down.
Yeah. And I think I learned eventually that it was okay to prop myself up and it was okay to give myself confidence. It was okay to go, damn, Kay, like, you're actually doing this, because I was constantly checking myself, going, was that good enough? Did I sound okay? Do I look okay? Do I look fat? Do I look skinny? Do I look this? Do I do that? How is my hand? Do I do this? Because I was constantly being told, you need to be like this. You need to be like Britney. You need to be like Nelly Furtado. You need to be like Jessica Simpson, Mandy Moore. You need to be like them. You need to always have your makeup done. Your hair always has to be done. You should always be dressed this way. You should always do that. And you are this pop star. Every girl is going to want to be you. Every guy is going to want you. You should be this person. And I was like, man, that's a lot of people to be. That is a lot of people to be. But I didn't know any different. I didn't know any better. And as a respectful young Māori New Zealander, like any other Pacific Island Māori person, you just respect what your elders tell you. Who was I to know any better? I've never been in this industry, and my parents didn't know anything either. So they were just following what everyone else was telling them. How were they to know? So eventually, this is the path that I'm going down. I am wearing these tops and these clothes, and I'm thinking, I'm showing my belly button. Like, that's a lot, from a conservative father, and then here's people sending me mail and, sending me pictures. Eventually, when I did start getting social media, going, I know where you live. I saw you running down the street. I know this, I know that. And they would stand outside my house, my parents' house. They would follow my sisters home from school, and you think, wow, there were creeps back then without phones and out. Yes, there were. Yeah. And it was a lot scarier because they were actually there. They were parked outside. They were following you home from school. So I think eventually I just started throwing myself more into the music because I actually liked the whole journey that I was on. I didn't like that side of it, but I liked the journey that I was on, and I liked the performances. I loved doing these promotional stuff, filming videos, getting out and performing. I loved touring, and I loved being able to develop more, and I loved seeing something come from nothing into something amazing. I loved being able in that creative process, and I think that's where I really found my flow. So I remember 16, coming off a 3-month tour. What was it called? Summer Hummer.
Sponsored by Boost Mobile or something?
Oh, something like that. It was Summer Hummer. And it was myself, Zed, a few other people, and I went away on this massive tour, and I had spent more than 30 days away from school. I think I had spent actually near on 50 days away from school. I got called into the principal's office, and they said, look, you're an amazing student. I was like, cool, was there a problem with the work? Because I did the work. And they're like, no, there's no problem with the work. Thank you so much for doing it. But look, rules say that you have to be at school and you can't miss more than 30 days a year. If you, for just anything, you don't have a medical certificate, you're going to have to come back and resit sixth form. In my head, I'm like, fuck that. I am not coming back to school. I was like, mate. So I walk out of there and I was like, well, what's my other option? They're like, you'll be fine. You can come back, resit sixth form, and then get your bursary, go into seventh form. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, why? I've done the work. Turns out I go outside and I ring my dad and I'm like, Dad, this is what they're saying. And he's like, well, what do you think? What do you want to do? I'm like, I got a job. I was like, I'll be fine. I was only making like $350 a week back then, which is,
damn. Back then that was no good.
I was like, damn. Like, okay, I've got it. I'll be fine, And he was like, well, you know what? You're already on your path. You're already on your journey. You've got something to work towards. So throw yourself into that. And I'm like, cool. Sign myself out. And that was it. Just threw myself into music, threw myself into more performance, into thing. I still didn't have the knowledge that I wish I had now back then of how to go and navigate the whole being dropped from a label, not being able to navigate through how to develop even further. And I think at that time I was also being put into a box of, you're plastic fantastic, you can't sing, you can't do these things, you can't do this, you're nothing. Imagine saying that now to a 15-year-old. We don't tell kids you're plastic fantastic, you can't do jack shit, you're made up, you're produced in a studio. Don't eat that pie, you'll get fat. Do you know that has a block of butter in it? Have you done your gym workout today? You need to be showing more stomach. You need to be showing more skin. Where is your makeup? Why isn't your hair straightened? I'm a young little Māori girl with curly ass hair.
Yeah, it must be especially like alarming for you now with your daughter. Oh
yeah.
Like thinking, what the fuck? Do you think you were more mature than what your daughter was at the same age?
Oh, that's a really good question. I've never really thought about that. I think in terms of life experience, I think I was a lot more mature than her, because in order for me to go out and really make sure that I was honing my skills and practicing, I was literally playing at bars when I was 15, 14, you know, I was playing with, you know, cover bands inside bars. Can you imagine going to the Rose and Crown, which isn't there anymore, and it's full of, you know, Navy sailors and stuff like that, and I'm standing there, I walk up to the bar to go get a glass of water, and my PE teacher's standing there going, hey, can I buy you a drink? And I turn around and I'm like, hi, sir. And he's like, oh my gosh, Carlina, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be in here. I'm like, oh, I'm with the band. And he was like, we have never seen each other.
Oh my God.
So, you know, like I would, my parents, I love my parents. You know, when I think about that now, I would handcuff my daughter to the house, you know, if I knew that she was out there doing that. But my parents had so much faith, and they just were like, this is what she's doing. This is her path. And I was a pretty self-determined, independent child, you know. I'd get myself to my netball games. I'd get a job so I could buy myself my shoes and pay for my fees and things like that. You know, I would get myself, my mum would ring me up and be like, where are you? I was like, it's written on the fridge. I'm in Hamilton. I'm at a netball tournament.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Oh, I'm playing for the New Zealand Māoris. You know, so it was one of those things where I was like, I just went out and just did everything that I could because I wanted to try so many different things. I wanted to be and do so many things because I just wanted to.
Also, it was a long time ago, like early 2000s. It was less sort of hands-on parenting, I think, than what it is now. Now your parents will be like, you're doing what? Where are you going? Who's there? Who's there? Oh, I don't know about this. This doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
I'll come along with you.
Yeah.
But back then, there's some good experiences, eh? Like you toured with Missy Elliott, or you opened for Missy Elliott?
Yeah, Busta Rhymes, Missy Elliott, Shaggy, Nelly Furtado. Yeah. Missy Elliott, I didn't. We weren't even allowed to be backstage. She makes people clear the back of the stage. She doesn't want anyone there. She'll stay in her green room. Even her dancers aren't even allowed to be in that area until it's actual time. Yeah, they clear. Everyone had to be out of there. Busta Rhymes was cool. He was really amazing. He's an amazing artist. Didn't have too much interaction with him, but he came out, said thank you, said hi, and then went straight back into the room because he was on vocal rest. Didn't want to be around people to catch anything as well, because I think at that time he had just come off being sick because he was on a tour in Australia. Yeah.
Coolio? What was Coolio like?
Oh, Coolio I got to know really well. He's an amazing man. Amazing man.
I love Coolio. Everyone thinks Gangster's Paradise, but Fantastic Voyage and See You When You Get There, two of my favourite songs ever.
See You When You Get There is one of my favourites. He's a really good cook. A really good cook.
Actually?
Yeah, he made like this 3 chili chicken pepper dish for us. And he loved it, eh? And he loves like he brought out a cookbook eventually. I remember we went to his house a few times, and he would cook and make sandwiches for us and things like that. And he was just so vibrant, so alive, you know. And I always saw good things about him. Like I never saw him do drugs and things like that. So, you know, it was sad when I heard that he passed away. I did have a little tear.
He died a couple of years, did you?
Yeah. And I reached out to his nephew, who used to be his hype man, who I knew really well as well, and who used to live with him. And yeah, like we used to record in his studio all the time. He was just a wonderful man. He was just a really wonderful man. I'm so grateful that I did actually do that tour with him, because he just loved our culture. He loved New Zealand. And he was like, man, we got to go back there, Kay. Y'all got to take me back. So I'm like, okay.
What was that? Was that like a Juicy Fest or something?
No, it was the Coolio tour.
Oh, the Coolio tour, right.
Yep. Who else is there? Gosh, Pink. I opened up for Pink, Christchurch and Auckland. It was probably before she had children and met her partner, and probably wasn't in a most colourful. It was the colourful time of her life.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Amazing. Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
I like the party girl era.
Yeah, her party girl era. I remember her having to cancel a few, meet and greets and things like that because she didn't have a voice anymore, or she was quite sick. from the night before, partying and drinking the night before. So,
she was supposed to be headliner on this tour, this one-day festival thing at Western Springs called Rumba with
I was at Rumba.
Shaggy, Kaylee, Emma Bunton, and a few others, and she was the headline act, and she pulled out. And
Sophie Monk was there as well.
Eh?
Sophie Monk.
Yeah.
And
Dan, you were on that stage too.
Yeah, I was on that stage. Awesome. I got to meet a lot of them as well. That was cool. That was, I think I was more nervous about doing that than any other gig. I think because having to stand in front of people that you actually know. And you had to walk to the stage and I was, Kaylee, and I'm thinking, damn, I actually know you guys. And the whole time I'm doing that, I'm like, am I singing well? Am I doing good? Am I doing the right moves? I'm going to forget something. I was the worst at second guessing myself every time. But just before, have the biggest nerves, the biggest butterflies in your stomach, and then boom, you go out and you just got to roll with it and just try and channel all those nerves just to go on stage. And then you come off and you're on such a high. And then I realized that my fly was down the whole time. or the moment where I ripped my top trying to do the and 1 + 1 and I was like, hold it up.
Well, thankfully this was a time where there may have been Nokia phones with cameras, but they're very blurry. No one's going to...
Oh, the pictures are so pixelated now.
Yeah. Wow, these are good memories. And and off the back of that stuff, you got on Celebrity Treasure. You were one of the original Celebrity Treasure Island episodes, 2003.
Yes, yeah.
Who were you on with? Who was on?
Matthew Ridge, Nikki Watson, Charlotte Dawson.
Oh, rest in peace.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Yep. Greer Robertson, Jenny May. Me and Jenny May. Oh, my gosh. So, when we went on there, so this is before, they do it really, really well now. They really knuckle down on things. But we were told that we weren't allowed to take any makeup, any medications on there, no foods, no snacks, no nothing. They checked our bags. So that's cool. How come when we wake up in the morning, do I see Nikki Watson, Charlotte Dawson, Greer Robertson, all of them getting their faces ready? And me and Jenny May are waking up and we got hooping and then pickle in our eyes and stuff like that. Our hair's out here and we're just hey, what the? Are you guys serious? And then at night, they're we're sitting there and we're having a laugh and stuff like that. And Nikki, but hey girl, you want some chocolate? Where the hell did you get chocolate from? I've been starving myself over here all day and you've had chocolate in your sleeping bag the whole time. I'm like, oh. So then, we were also in that thing with Matthew Ridge, Mark Ellis. I remember it was the whole goat saga. He wanted to, we were actually really hungry.
Someone was going to kill a goat?
Yeah.
Who was it, Coxie, Anthony Ray Parker?
Oh,
no.
Okay.
It was 22 years ago.
Yeah, no. So, yeah, and so before we had actually gone to the island, because they put us on a boat and we actually went to the island. So we was at the Sheraton first. And they're like, look, go put yourself, rest up, make sure you get all your contraband out of your bag and everything. Go and have some fun before we have the dinner. We're going to do the briefing and then we're gone. We're gone at 5 a.m. in the morning, straight on the boat, and we're going straight into it. And we're like, okay, cool. So me, Matthew Ridge, Mark Ellis, and it was one other person, I can't remember who it was. We all got on the jet skis. And this is the first time I'd ever been on a jet ski. I'm like, stupid to do in Fiji with waves because, you just get tossed. And I got thrown off the jet ski and tossed around and I scratched my shoulder on the reef. Didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, yeah, all good. What a stupid thing to do, take my pride and pick up my undies out of my bikini that almost fell off as well and get out of the water and, take the jet ski back. 4 days into being on the island, once we started, it got infected and it started to spread the rash and it went up my neck and I could feel it. It was getting really, really hot. And so I was saying, hey, look, can I have something? Can I just have a cream or something to go onto it? Surely there's something like that. This isn't, thing for me to go home. But everyone everyone was going, I need to go home. I want to go home. I want to do this. I want to do that. So I wasn't allowed to get anything. I started realizing that things were a bit, made up. They were really faked. And I was like, look, this is no point for me to be here. Like, I actually thought, like, Jenny May and I got a broken net and we were literally making a hinaki, trying to catch some fish. Like, we were out there actually trying to do stuff and no one else was doing it. I was like, this is no fun. This is actually not fun. So I was like, and then they're not going to give me anything for this. This is actually getting really painful. I'm like, you know what? Matthew Ridge, they were having a conversation of who and when was people going to go home. Matthew's like, oh, I'll go home on Thursday because I've got to get home for my son's birthday. And so-and-so was saying, oh, yeah, well, I'll go home after you then. Or do you want to go home before me? And he was like, oh, and I was like, actually, I'm going to go home. I'll go home today. Like, you vote me. I'm good. I'm going to go home. Like, that's it. So, yeah, I ended up going home. I wasn't the first, but I was just like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, I think so much has changed since then and now. Like the duty of care, like
well,
they're not going to hold back a cream.
Yeah, but then that really put my perspective. It gave me perspective in doing reality TV, and I was like, so this is what behind the scenes reality TV is like. And there were little things that producers would say and do, and okay, well, you two go over here and you two walk out of the bush together, and you're like, what are they conspiring? Or are they together? I'm like, oh, you're a grown ass man. I was like, at that time, I was kind of thinking, you're old enough to be my dad.
Yeah, you did a lot at a really young age, like pre-20. You did so much. Is this when your radio career started? You're at Flavour now doing the breakfast show. You started at Flavour as well, right?
Yeah. No. I started at Flavour. So
when was that, around the same sort of time, like early 2000s?
Yeah. It was kind of, I guess.
Off the back of your pop career.
Yep, off the back. So I'd been dropped from Universal. I'd gone to do Celebrity Treasure Island. I kind of fell into this little bit of a depression thing because I really didn't understand the people that were around me at the time. Lots of people wanted things. We want money for this. We want money for that. And they were going to the record company asking people for things without my knowledge. And I had no idea that a lot of things that were going on. So, I started to become very much inverted, a recluse. I was an introvert pretty much. I wasn't leaving the house. I was really depressed. And I didn't know I didn't know that was depression at the time. And I think I would even turn down offers and gigs and stuff. Like I was just, no, I can't because how can I trust these people? I was having real bad trust issues. And I just turned around and just one day I was like, you know what? I've really got to get myself out of this hole. And I was just like, drink a cup of concrete, Kay, harden up, get your ass out of this house. So I started walking, then I started running, and then I thought, okay, I actually need to do something. Like this is not hitting it at the moment. This is good. It's a start, but I actually need to do something. And I was like, you know what? What is something that I actually love doing? What is one of my passions? I love playing sports. So I went back and I played netball. I love playing touch. I went back and I played touch. And it just so happened that one of my friends, shout out to Lou, she goes, can you come and play touch for us? And it was an NZME team. She goes, I just need fill-ins. I was like, yeah. And when I got there, I was super nervous because I was like, oh, I know these people. Like I've seen them in the radio station at the time. I think it was TRN. It was called. It wasn't NZME.
Yeah, the radio network.
Yeah. And I was just like, it made me feel nervous playing against them and stuff. And she was like, no, like that guy there, I reckon you should talk to him. I was like, why? She goes, he's starting a new radio station. And I was like, And then it dawned on me about maybe a month before I got dropped from the record label, I had done a takeover at the Vault on the Edge nights with Mike Puru.
Oh, yeah.
And he had said to me, you're really good at talking to all these people. You have a really good voice. You should do radio. And at the time I laughed. I laughed at it. I laughed at him for saying it. And
was that Mike?
Yeah, Mike Puru.
Wow.
And I laughed because I was like, boo, who wants to listen to my voice? I don't even like the sound of my own voice talking. And so when she said that triggered off in my head. And I was like, okay, I'm going to talk to him. So played the whole game. Walked up to James Daniels, who was the content director of Flavour, who was starting it. And I said, hi, I'm Kaylee. And he goes, yeah, I know who you are. And I said, I hear you're starting a radio station. And he goes, I said, that really cool one that's just playing hip hop and R&B at the moment. And he was like, yeah. I said, you got any jobs? And he just looked at me like, what do you mean? You're Miss Broken Wings. You're the little teen queen of pop, you know, princess of pop type thing. What do you mean? And I was just like, look,
you must be a millionaire.
Everyone was looking at me like that. If I was Britney Spears and we had social media back then, you know. But yeah, I just asked him, and he was just like, I just said, look, I just really want to try something different. I am in a space at the moment where I just really want to just get out there and just explore my options. He's like, cool, come see me tomorrow. Went down there. He goes, right, would you want to go out today? Excuse me. I said, yeah, I'll go out. Let's go. And he goes, okay, I'm going to send you out in the truck, in the Hummer, in the Flavour Hummer, and you're going to go out and do a cross. I'm like, okay. In my head, I've no idea what a cross is. I don't know what this radio language is. I just know what promotion. He's like, you just go out there, give away Burger King vouchers. Cool. Went down to Burger King, stood out on Lincoln Road at Burger King. When it was my time, I talked so fast that no one understood where I was and no one came. I ended up having to give it to the homeless guy that was walking by trying to wash windscreens. So he was happy.
Oh, so you talk fast just because you were nervous? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was the first time actually doing it. Anyway, I got back and they all laughed and everything. I was like, I'm so sorry. He's like, no. He was like, I actually really like the tone of your voice. What do you reckon? And I was like, yeah, cool. Did it for a couple of days. And then he goes, hey, you know, I really, really like the tone of your voice. Do you think that maybe we could trial you on nights? I was like, yeah, sure. And he goes, cool. Do you know how to panel? Yeah. Of course I do. And in my head, I'm like, how hard does this be? Just turn on the microphone and talk. Well, guys, there's a lot more to radio, okay?
There's so many buttons.
There's a lot more going on that screen than you think. And I ran straight into the studio. And at the time, Nixon was doing Drive. He'd just started on Drive. And I said, oi, JD's going to give me a shot at nights. Tell me everything that you know. He got a big A4 piece of paper and wrote, do not touch these, and put it over these two buttons. He goes, just go in the other studio and have a tutu. And I was like, is that all? And he goes, yeah. So I watched him for a bit, wrote a few things down, and then I went into the studio. I had the #1 night show for a couple of years.
Wow.
Yeah. And I didn't know about radio awards back then. Had I known, I definitely would have submitted my show.
Oh, yeah, Radio Awards. So, yeah, last year at the New Zealand Radio Awards. So last year, should we get to that? Yeah, we'll get to that now. Yeah, last year at the radio was really special. Like you got like a Lifetime Achievement Award or?
Oh gosh, it feels like it.
It's like
it was just your
outstanding contribution to radio.
Yeah, thank you for your service type thing.
And your teammates from My FM all stood up in their seats in this theatre at Sky City and gave you a haka. I was sitting there with goosebumps. That was so emotional.
That's the first time that the My FM haka had been done in so long. That was really beautiful.
Yeah.
I was really grateful.
It's a lot, eh?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. I miss him. I have so much love for that time in my life as well. You know, I obviously had a few kids while I was there, you know, coming back from being in America to going to breakfast for a couple of years and then moving into days and being on days for, 11 years. So
yeah, you were part of the furniture there.
Yeah, well,
yeah, you owned that slot.
Yeah.
So
Pay didn't reflect it though.
Never does, darling.
No.
So,
and you don't do it for money.
So you did that stint in the early 2000s at Flavour. Then there was the LA years, which we've discussed.
Yeah, then I moved to LA, and then when I came back to My, and that was really special because I grew up listening to My. You know, so having that there and being on that station, I was well aware of the whakapapa, the kaupapa of that station and why it was there and what it was there for. And I still, to this day, believe that if you hold that value and you hold that knowledge, that you should, that should be at the first and foremost at the forefront of why you're doing radio. And there's a lot of stations that have different kaupapa and different histories, but just knowing about that history and knowing where you're coming, what happened and how they got there and why it started. Like, it's just like anything in your culture. Once you know where you come from, you know where you're going. So it was a beautiful time, and it was a great time for me to grow as a person, as a woman, as a mother, a great time for me to grow as a radio announcer. And I have to say, I learned a lot being at MediaWorks. I learned a lot from the School of Leon. I learned a lot from the School of Nixon. I learned a lot from being on Breakfast, and then I learned a lot being on Days. I learned a lot about radio in itself, and just being on that other side of, I've been a singer trying to get your songs on the radio, how to help other artists, what they need to know, how it works, because it's frustrating as an artist to look from outside in going, I've got a hot song, why aren't you playing it? So it's understanding the processes behind things, and that just because you think you've got one hot song, so does 20,000 other people who are trying to push it at the same time, so there was just so many elements to it. But I was there, and it was a beautiful moment. But I came to a point where I wanted to grow. I mentioned that, once you have stopped learning, that it's time to move on. And that was my whole perspective at that time. I had stopped being challenged. I'd stopped growing as a person, I think, in that role that I was in. And
same role for 11 years will do that.
Yeah.
In any line of work, I think.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I tried. I tried to find things to keep lighting my fire. And, I needed something, and I just didn't know what it was. So I started applying for other jobs at other stations, and I kept on getting the door shut on me without any explanation. So
internally at MediaWorks.
Yeah. And I just kept trying. I was like, okay, maybe it's not my time. And there were so many other great announcers. Like I don't think I'm the cream of the crop. I don't think that I'm the messiah of radio or anything. And I don't ever think that, I'm bigger than anybody else. I think I'm still learning even now, being on breakfast radio in that capacity, and in that I love the challenge because I can learn on the go. But at that point in time, I thought, this is it. I've now gone into training other people up, training other people to go onto radio, to do breakfast, to do weekends, to do The Edge, to do George, to do More FM. I started training all these other people, and I'm thinking, I actually like this part of it, mentoring people. And I thought, maybe that's it. Maybe this is where I'm at. And when I got turned down for a job for another station, I kind of looked around and I thought, man, here I am training these people who want to be on radio where I am. And here I am trying to be on radio where they are. And these people that I admire, I'd sit there and I'd look at these announcers going, I want your seat. But it felt wrong looking at your colleagues, your friends, people who you respect, going, I have to sit here and wait here for you to be culturally cancelled, carked, or get fired. And that's a horrible feeling. This industry is so small. And I thought, is somebody waiting for me to do that? And then music started playing, and I didn't know who the artist was. I was like, who the hell, and how do you say this name? And I started feeling really old. And then I started looking around me, and, other announcers weren't even born when Broken Wings came out. I was like, you know what? It is time for me to move over. I've done enough here to create this environment and make the space better than it was when I came into it. It's now time. And My FM is such a cool brand. It's such an amazing brand, and it's such an effective brand. It's such a great catalyst for our youth and our rangatahi, and just our community, our minority community as well. And it needs better. And I just didn't feel like I was doing that for them anymore. And I thought, you know what? It needs fresher meat. I need to make way for the rangatahi to come through and give them a chance, give them a shot. And so that was my whole thought process. I didn't have a job to go to. I was like, this is it. Then I found out I was pregnant with my 6th child. And I thought, wow, after the last experience, I can't have that happen again. So it just all kind of just fell into the
Timing
same thing.
was right.
And you kind of just know, when
You've
you
done all
feel
you
it.
can.
Yeah. And I was sad to go because I know I'm leaving friends. I'm leaving some great, amazing, talented people. But at the same time, I'm like, I didn't feel hurt and second guessing or feel guilty about my decision. I wasn't going, oh no, I changed my mind. I wasn't freaking out about it. So I just knew that I needed to put myself in an uncomfortable position in order for me to grow. And in order for someone else to come through, make room. I'm not the gatekeeper. So, it's only right for me to move on over and let someone else shine in there. And people are just, they're amazing. Like the people who have come into that and filled those positions now, and the way that it's developing now, that station is only going to go from strength to strength. But it was just my time. And then divine intervention, at the same time, I get offered a position to go and lecture at the New Zealand Radio Training School with Kim Adams and then Leah. And I was like, great people, great opportunity. That's what I was doing. Why not get paid to do it? So I was getting paid to do that, So it just, and I got to work, and I get to work to this day. I still work for Awanui Arangi. So I still lecture in the afternoons, and I get to work in a Māori environment, which is just so beautiful. It's so inviting, and it really fills my cup. And it's been a long time since I've been in a place where that actually has done that, filled my cup, filled my weight away, and just given me something that I can just grow with. And I love it. It's so inviting, and I love the students that we get to work with. I love being able to expose them to what radio is, content creating is, and I love getting them to come into the studio and going, well, if you guys want to know what radio is, wake up at 4 a.m. and come in. You want to see people work, that's work. It's not all about the glitz and the glam and the clout. If you're doing and you're chasing something for clout, for the dream, for the I want to be famous, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. If you're doing it for the money, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, you got to do what you love, and then hopefully the money will follow.
You'd hope so.
You did so much at My FM. Like the changes you saw over the time you were there are just exponential. Like it was like really underfunded when you started, Like it was a neglected, it was a great station.
So MediaWorks had just acquired them.
Right.
And
was it in a different building, like with a leaky roof?
Great North Road, yeah. So when Nixon and I came back from America, we literally were doing our show, and I think it was lightning. It was a storm, and lightning hit the building and it cut off the music. And so literally Nixon's like, and now it's Kaylee with broken wings. Sing. And I was like, take these broken wings. So, like, oh my gosh, this is actual real radio, and we had to stick the CD in. So
yeah, no money, no resources. And it's worth, I don't know what the ratings were at the time, but probably like a 10% share, which is massive. It's a massive performing station, but just didn't have sort of any funding or resources, eh?
Yeah, no, it was slumping at that time. But, to be a part of something and to, again, it's that whole go through the creative process and see it from a vision to that process of growing and creating something that comes to be amazing, and the things that you can do with it. Like I started to realize the potential and my purpose for being there. And I started to realize, like, hey, I'm on my reo journey. I want to speak more Māori on air. Hey, I want to reach out and be more a part of the community, because that's where it's at. And I remembered listening and being a part of like a lot of radio promos, tossing sausages and just getting to meet people, and how amazing that was. How like radio stations, we've gone past going back to that being human, so
making that connection.
Yeah, and making that connection, that human connection of listeners. Now it's all on, I saw you on a video, I know what your whole entire life is, and I get to say and text and comment whatever the hell I want, because I think I know you. Because I see everything you put on in social media. It's really fictitious. And I'd like to see radio go back to the raw rarity of what it is. But then at the same time, I understand it's got to grow, it's got to evolve. And things like this, being podcasts, really getting to see the people behind the scenes and really delving into what they are. Maybe it's that growth that we get to go through. You spent years and years, like I watched you on radio and watched you do amazing things in radio and got to see you grow into where you're at now. And I got to actually experience the transition of who you were in radio and to who you are now, getting to meet this actual Dominic Harvey.
Oh,
you know?
Kalina.
And you're an amazing person. You're an amazing man.
Oh, thanks. So are you.
And you've gone through a lot. And, you know, I always used to, you know, stop and try and chat to you when you were walking Kanye as I was trying to race into my show and stuff. And I always knew that you're an amazing man, you know, and there was so much depth to you. And there's so much more to you than just the voice behind the mic and just behind this character of a radio presenter that everyone thought and that everyone hated or loved to hate, you know.
Well, yeah, you had to be like polarizing in a way. Like I think part of that is.
But then there wasn't social media when you were doing that.
Yeah.
So of course you had to be. Because how else were you going to get people to want to listen into a show?
Yeah.
You had to. There wasn't a camera. You know, like it's theatre of the mind in radio. It's all about the effects, the voice, the emotion. So you really had to go the extra mile, be over the top. And it just became so ingrained into people. You know, and radio has evolved since then. And it will continue to evolve. We as people and, you know, we just need to evolve with it and find different ways to make those connections with the listeners. Because at the end of the day, we do it for them. You know, we do it to make their day. We do it to speak to them. That's why I love music. And I think that's why I've tried to keep my life around music. It's such a great way in a universal language. You know, you could listen to any song in any language and you can understand and feel the emotive behind that song. And it can speak to anybody. It can change someone's day. And that's what I love about it. No day is ever the same, but yet you can speak to them through a microphone and we get to be a part of their day, their life.
Shit, you love it, eh? I've got a real horrible question for you.
Oh, gosh, here we go.
What's
What do I get paid?
So you started in Flavour, short time at Flavour, long time at My FM, and now you're back at Flavour. Which station feels like home?
That is a horrible question. It's a horrible question.
Does it feel like? Yeah. Two homes. Maybe you got two homes.
I don't. You know what? And this is probably people are going to go. That's not a nice answer. But I don't care. I don't see my job as being home.
That's a great answer.
No, it's
a real healthy perspective.
Yeah, I don't see my job as being home, and I see that because I witness so many people be swallowed up in their jobs and be consumed with radio. If you don't have something going for you outside of your job, you will be sucked into this hole and it will suck the life out of you. And I think that goes with any job. Yeah,
and then you have the risk of if that job's taken away from you and it's someone else's decision, then it's like your whole, what defines you is gone.
Yeah. And
I think, and that's fucking sad if someone's defined by their job.
Yeah, and I think that I realised that at an early stage when I got dropped from Universal as Kaylee, and I was like, oh my gosh, who am I without this? Like, what do I do now? Where am I supposed to go? I didn't finish high school. I haven't gone to university. What the hell am I supposed to do now? You know, and I had to go through this whole thing of, hold on, I'm more than just a voice. I'm more than just a singer. I'm more than just a radio announcer. I'm more than this. I'm smarter than that. I'm better than that. You know, this doesn't define who I am. These are things that I love to do. These are things that I can do. What defines me is what I do with it and how I do it and what I get out of it. That's what defines me. It's not about what you get paid and what you do from 1 hour to the next. You know, I could talk on a microphone or I can go and clean toilets. You know, that there's no two ways about it.
Yeah, you don't have that sort of pride thing, do you? Or that ego?
I think I had to swallow that a long time ago,
right,
you know.
Right.
And I think the sooner you can do that, the less you'll let it consume you, you know, and let it be the be all and end all. because it's heartbreaking to watch people. And this is why I sympathize with sports people who leave a long career of like league or rugby, and then they're just like, what now? You know, and it's heartbreaking to watch that, you know? So yeah, I try to tell everyone, like even my students now, you need a hobby outside of, you know, radio. You need a hobby outside of your job. One, you need it because you need content. Two, you need it because you need a life. You need to have something else in your life going for you. And three, you should always have a side hustle that you're in control of, because you're working for someone. You're a business. You're a part of that business. There's a process, there's a system, there's a game. We all play in the game. The sooner you realize that, the sooner you can actually jump on the wagon and do what you can and make it work for you.
Yeah, and there's never been a better time, especially for people in media, to start a side hustle than now.
Yeah.
Like build your social media, learn how to do the TikToks. I'm too old for this shit.
Do you have TikTok?
Yeah, but it's mainly just like clips that my social media guy puts up from the
so somebody else does your TikTok.
Yeah. I can sit there for hours, trying to figure out how to get the text on at the right time. And then I see other people and they'll whip one out in like a couple of minutes.
No,
it just takes me too long.
It blows my mind. Like I was just watching this the other day, and it was Will Smith standing with this person, this young person, and they have 8.9 million views, and all they're doing is standing next to Will Smith, and they're holding the camera up, and they're just like doing these faces. I'm like, so what do? Do they give you advice on something? Are they doing something? Like, what are they actually doing? And there's nothing. And I'm like, this is what our life has come to. Just standing in front of a camera, talking shit.
Shit, this has been so much fun. There's I'm gonna have to wrap it up because I've been busting for a piss for like
don't drink all your water at once.
We haven't even you've been through so much adversity and you're so resilient. We haven't even talked about your fifth baby, like born 12 weeks premature.
Yeah,
almost died. You were very sick for a while, eh?
Oh, well, yeah. I guess you could say that. So I went in on December. At 23 weeks pregnant, my waters broke, and I had her in February, and we didn't come out of hospital until April. So my waters broke. She turned, head plugged up the hole, so she only had water around her head until 29 weeks. She was born at 29 weeks, and you know, I got to give birth to her naturally, and that was great. And then she went straight into an incubator. You know, at that point I was like, why are you putting my baby into a rubbish bag? Like, what the hell are you guys doing? And not to know that that was actually how they keep their babies warm before putting them in the incubator.
Is it a rubbish bag or is it like a special medical bag that looks like a...
I thought it was a rubbish bag because it just looked like the normal clear plastic that, you know, you put rubbish in. Because I'm like, if it's for heating, then why don't you just put them in the tinfoil bags, you know, the blankets?
Oh, yeah, those emergency blankets.
But hey, if you're a doctor out there, you could tell me different. But I look like a rubbish bag to me. That's what I said to them. My husband, you know, went with her and stuff, and you know, it was a real touch and go moment. Like, we didn't know how that whole situation was going to go. The conversations around having a baby or being in labour at 23 to 30 weeks is a really morbid and stressful conversation. The vitality of and the lifespan of a child at that age and born at that thing is really touch and go. They can catch, even if they're born healthy and fine, they can still catch things. You know, they've still got to grow because she's no longer inside my puku and where it's safe, where I thought. And yeah, so we're in hospital. She's still on a whiff of oxygen, touch and go there, like with her oxygen levels and stuff. We finally come out, and 4 weeks later, she catches RSV and almost dies twice. It was horrible. It was, I don't wish it on anybody, you know, and to witness that, to see that, like my older son, he almost died from RSV, and I was in Long Beach Memorial. He was in a coma for 8 weeks, in an induced coma. In a paralytic coma where he was on actual life support. And I kind of didn't understand it then because I didn't really get to see it in its full entirety. I didn't get to see his struggle. I had gone home for a shower because they just told me that he had the flu and he was just needed a little bit of extra help to breathe. So when they intubated him and when I got back to the hospital because they said he had a code blue, I was like, okay. And that was kind of my first like knowledge around, okay, this is what RSV is. Not knowing that it was rampant here in New Zealand at the time I had my daughter, Honor, and yeah, she almost died twice. Like, it's a real big struggle. And I just pleaded with them, like, last resort to intubate her, to put her on life support, last resort, because it can really damage the baby. It can save their life, yes, but they come out with, could be brain development, ears, eyes, all that. There's so many risks to actually intubating them that they'd rather not if they can avoid it. So there was no room in any other hospital to go to. We were at Middlemore at the time. And yeah, what would normally take a child at her age or just any normal child, healthy child, would take 7 days. It took her 9 weeks. And yeah, it was horrible. Both me and my husband were arguing with doctors. We were pleading with doctors. We were sympathizing with doctors and other families that were in there. We were just at the hospital 24/7, juggling kids at home and here at the hospital. Then she finally makes it through, comes out, and then 2-3 months later, I go, okay, I actually need to go back to work. I'm struggling mentally. I think at the time, my doctor said that I was going through postpartum depression, and which is quite common after having a premature baby, being in hospital for so long myself, and then giving birth and then having to go through that prematurity. And nurses at the hospital when I was there told me that I would need to go and speak to someone. And I thought, oh, I'll be fine. Just need to get the hell out of this hospital. And so I was going through postpartum and I needed to find some normalcy. I needed to connect. I needed to get out of the house. I needed to stop hearing beeping in my head. I needed to constantly stop hovering over her into, is she breathing? Is she doing this? Is she doing that? Is she growing? Is she having brain issues? Is she this, that, this, all these things. And I went back to work. I drive to work and my husband's at home with the kids. I think we might have been lockdown. And I go into the building, say hi, start walking towards the studio. I walk past the edge. I walk to the ramp, say hi to the breakfast crew. I walk up, I open the door, I get a phone call. And it's my husband screaming. And it's a scream that I never want to hear ever again. Ever, ever, ever. She's going blue. She's dying. She's not breathing. What do I do? You need to come home. She's limp. She's struggling. What do I do? And I'm just screaming, call an ambulance, call an ambulance. And he's like, I've got the oxygen. At that point, I don't know why, but I hadn't given back the oxygen tanks. And both my husband and I were like, oh, maybe we should hang on to them. And for some reason, my husband was by the oxygen tanks the day before and had tested it to see if it was still working, the valves and everything, and hooked up the nasal cannulas. I don't know why, but he got the nasal cannulas, laid her after doing CPR, and my oldest daughter called the ambulance. He shoved those cannulas up her and turned the oxygen up so far that was probably her saving grace to keep her until the ambulance came and then rushed her to hospital. She had caught a rhinovirus, which is just a common flu, common cold, and just stopped breathing. And so, yeah, that was really scary. And so... Did you felt guilty for going back to work? I did. Yeah, I did. I felt guilty for going back to work. I felt guilty for leaving my husband in that situation. I felt guilty that my kids had to see that and experience that, because every time anything happened to her, we were all on edge, especially my husband. Like it really
triggered him.
It really triggered him, and it still triggers him to this day. You know, even with our youngest baby, any little cough, any little sound, what's wrong with him? Is he okay? Yep. All right. You know, he's always on edge, like just waiting, watching. He's such a hands-on dad, which I love, and you know, he's so aware, and he's really quick. You know, real quick when he's around it, but. It really changed the dynamic of our relationship, of our family. And it really, at first it was a strain because obviously there was a lot that each of us were going through personally. And then to go through that together, we really realized we need to actually come together and we need to do this. And it was really good for us, I think, in terms of realizing where we were at as a family and going through these things, because man, that really does test your relationship. It really does. So he had proposed to me, obviously, when I found out I was pregnant, to her after being together for 7 years. And we had planned on getting married, but then COVID came. And then I found out I was pregnant and life happened and we really couldn't do anything. She was on and off sick, in and out of hospital for 2 years, you know, so that was really hard. But each time, just keep powering through, just keep going through, you know, she's going to get better. Every time, just find a positive in it, you know, well, at least this time we didn't have to go on oxygen. Well, at least this time she didn't have to be induced into a coma or put to sleep. And, you know, these little things like, hey, at least this time she could eat, you know, hey, she's still eating. There's more things that she can do. You see her now, you would never think that she's been through all these things. She's so feisty. She's so independent.
Well, she had to fight early on, right?
Yeah. And she's such a lioness. Like, she's so fiery. It's not funny. She gives us a run for her money. She's not even the youngest in the house anymore, but she still rules the coop. She rules her dad. She's got him wrapped around his finger. Like, she is an amazing little kid. And then when I got pregnant this time round, obviously when I left and decided, okay, I actually need to focus on this, because I was scared. I didn't want to get excited about the pregnancy, because here I was not even knowing if I could even make it to 23 weeks, let alone make it through a whole pregnancy, which I didn't. But I'm so grateful that I was able to make it to at least 32 weeks. I went into labor, waters broke, and then nothing happened. So it stalled for a couple of weeks. And I was just by the grace of God that by 34 weeks, which is great because by 32 weeks their lungs are fully developed, that he just needed to get fat and he was stuck under my ribs and I ended up going into labor. So they had to cut me open and, you know, my modelling days are now over. Never going to get into a bikini ever again.
Oh, no more Treasure Island.
No more FHM shoots.
Man, you've did you do an FHM shoot?
Yeah.
Did you? FHM is it For Him mainly? For Him magazine? It was like a there was
I did the cover of the rugby magazine, all painted as well.
Right. Yeah, you were sexualised at a very young age, eh?
No, I was 18 by then.
Right.
Yeah, they didn't let me do that stuff until I was of age.
Fuck, you've been through, there's been so much adversity, eh? Like, how are you so resilient?
That's
just born this way, or, you know, is it just like scar tissue from going through so much that's made you strong, or?
I don't know. Maybe it's perspective. Maybe it's just how I'm built. I don't know. I give credit to great grandparents and my mum and dad. You know, I've watched my mum be so resilient. You know, I only realized my mum was human when I saw her crying at the age of 9 because someone had driven through the side of our house and the hot water boiler cupboard just burst and the dishwasher broke, the washing machine broke all at once, and my dad was in Bosnia and she was trying to be a school teacher, studying and holding down 3 jobs. So, you know, the perspective is, at least I have my family, at least I have a roof over my head, I am alive, I have my health, which I'm grateful for. And everything that happens for a reason. And I have to find that lesson in that reason. If I can get through that and maybe I haven't learned the lesson and it's come around again, I wasn't listening the first time. So pay attention to your surroundings.
What a role model.
Thanks.
What a role model you are. No, sincerely, I mean that. My God. I'll tell you what, this has been such a great interview, and I'll tell you how I know this. Like I had on my notes cards to talk about Dancing with the Stars. And for most people that come on the podcast, if they've been on Dancing with the Stars, it might make like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. We haven't even got to it.
Nah.
Seems compared to the other stuff, the other parts of your tapestry.
Well,
Dancing with the Stars is nothing.
Oh, no, there was a bit of stupidity at the same time, honestly. I did it for the Revolution Tour, which is an amazing tour that goes around to schools around New Zealand talking to kids as young as primary, intermediate to all the way to high school, and they talk to them about self-harm, youth suicide, that whole keeping your cyber safe and finding a person to actually talk to. That stuff happens way too much in our country and way too much to our kids, and it's bloody hard to navigate and stuff. And I think they do a fantastic job. And I thought, you know what, this is a great cause, and if it's meant to be, that's who I want to do it for. And I was 16 weeks post C-section and got on there, did it, needed a waist trainer to hold me up because I had no core muscles and I was spazzing out every time I got on the dance floor. But we did it, and I'm grateful for it.
And you had people mom shaming you, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Like, get out.
What did she say? You've got it from the neck up, but from the neck down, you're not beautifully aesthetic, which I didn't understand. And I don't think it had ever been done on the show in its history or ever in New Zealand. But I grabbed the mic and I was like, excuse me, do you care to clarify what you just said? Like, can you put it into context that we understand? Because I'm not a professional dancer here. I'm dancing for charity. I'm supposed to be the so-called celebrity. I'm not here to do all these fancy dance moves. Like, my poor dance partner couldn't even lift me up. I love you. But, and it was a time where I was just like, that is not cool. She thought that I had some superpower because I was on radio and she was on television. But eventually we worked it out. I did say to the producers, hey, look, you let her know I want to talk to her face to face, because that was not cool. And they were like, do we need to be there? Do we need security? And I was like, no, this is just adult woman to woman. Like, we're going to have a conversation because I actually want to understand what the hell she was trying to say. And eventually I got it. She's an amazing judge, amazing dancer. And I guess just the way that she said it didn't come out right. And she just didn't articulate herself properly in a way that we could understand, because she's a professional dancer. We're not. But yeah, I mean, eventually we got there. We've understood each other. And I mean, I was okay with it. Pick myself up, move on. Like, I'm not going to hold a grudge against it. It's not worth my energy and time. I was there to raise money for a charity that was doing far more important work than me just dancing in sequins, So it was a great experience, stressful one. But, having to go and do my job on radio in days, leave to go practice, run, go pick up the kids, get dinner ready, breastfeed a baby, then go and practice, and then come home at 1 o'clock in the morning to breastfeed a baby, wake up and drop them all off at school, and then go back and do it all again, day in, day out. Like, I'm a competitive person, so I'm not just going to put in the standard 15 hours that they say in the contract to do. I want to make sure that I'm doing it some justice. I want to make sure that I'm there and that I'm doing them the service that they need, the charity. So, a lot of people that go on that show do put over the amount of work into that show, and they put so much practice into it.
Oh, I think you were on the same series as Clint Randall, who I was working with at the time. I saw how hard he trained. It was phenomenal. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
And he didn't even win. Manu won that
Manu won. Yeah. So Manu, William Wairua, we had Laura Daniels.
All right.
Bloody amazing.
Yeah, she made the final two, I think. Yeah.
Gosh, she's an amazing person, amazing, phenomenal
and
woman.
super competitive as well. Eh?
Yeah. I think that's what was so funny about it. Like we were all the biggest jokesters, but we were all super competitive, but yet we all knew that we were. And like everyone was trying to be secretive about it. We were like, bro, we know everyone's competitive. No one wants to look dumb.
Yeah. Was Eric Murray on that one as well?
He was on the next one.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's when the shit started going down for Manu. You probably didn't know about this at the time, but I believe it was during Dancing with the Stars that the police started like talking to him.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I believe it was quite. I've heard him on some other podcasts. I believe it was quite a stressful time for him, but you'd never know.
I knew it was a stressful time for him, and I can't speak on his behalf.
Yeah.
I just knew that it was a stressful time for him. I mean, the man was about to have a baby as well, so his wife was there and is heavily pregnant, and I like he was putting in so much work to train. So I don't know what was happening around behind the scenes out of that. All I know is we were all trying to train and people getting pissed off. You took my room. I was booked in this room. Well, I need to do a lift and I can't do the lift in that room. There's a low roof.
Yeah. So everyone's tired and sore.
Oh yeah. No. Yeah. So it was good times. And I'm grateful for those opportunities to do those things. And I think each time that I've done something like that, I learn a little bit more about myself and I get to share a little bit more about myself. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. And I hope that's something people get out of the podcast.
I hope so
just
too.
a bit more about who you are. Jeez, we've been going for 2 hours. So you did a breakfast radio show this morning. You've done a 2-hour 18 podcast. Are you exhausted now?
No. I've got to go and pick up the baby, breastfeed the baby, and get some dinner ready.
Yeah. Friday night in the
the Sangha house.
Friday night. Yeah. Oh, we didn't talk about the meat. We might have to do another podcast.
We didn't talk about this. We didn't talk about
the meat. There's so much.
We touched on the important parts for now.
Friday night in the household. What does that look like?
Movie night.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fend for Yourself Friday, I call it.
It's even got like a catchy radio name.
There's toasties. My kids are really resourceful. Please believe I've even taught my 4-year-old how to make their own cereal, how to turn on the microwave. These are the times you put it in for. That's it. So my kids are really resourceful. They know how to make their beds, make their own lunches, teach my kids to be really independent and, do things for themselves, because if we all want to be one place, we all got to move together, and we can't get stuff done if it's just me doing it. So we all pitch in, we all work together. That's what a whānau is. We all help each other out and we move together. So if one person's got one thing going on, then we're all going to support. So my oldest kids are performing at Polyfest. They've been practicing their little butts off for the last couple of months every day. So they are getting ready to do kapahaka, and so they've got a dress rehearsal. So we're all going along to that, and my youngest ones are so excited. They love it. They love going to cheer on their older siblings, and so we're all excited to go watch them. So we'll do that. Movie nights, mattress marae styles, popcorn, all that kind of thing. Yeah, go watch movies that probably were inappropriate.
I like what? What was it last Friday?
We were Waterboy.
Oh, Waterboy. Oh, Adam Sandler. Classic.
Yeah. So probably not something that you play for 6 and 4-year-olds. I'm like, wow, that didn't age well.
Oh, this has been great. Shit. Even all your businesses. You and your husband. How many businesses have you got?
Oh,
my God. 6 businesses?
Honestly, every time I have a kid, he opens up a new business.
I mean, it's just, we don't need to get into that, but it's inspiring. It's like, here you guys are, you're running this crazy, huge, by 2025 standards, chaotic household, and you're holding down a full-time radio job in the morning, which I've done. I know it's stressful. You got all these businesses going on, and you're making it work. It's awesome. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, do it while you're young. Because I'm not going to be doing it when I got a broken hip and I can't put 2 words together. My teeth are falling out. I mean, I make a joke of it saying, I've got 6 kids because they're my Kiwi saver. But, at the end of the day, I want my kids to see that hard work pays off. And if you want something, you got to work for it. It's not going to be handed to you. And I think it's just like that whole interpretation of, that generation of entitlement, it just doesn't come for free. It's not going to be handed to you. It's one of those things where my husband came from nothing, and his parents worked very, very hard to give him the life, and for him to be able to provide that for his children, it means a lot for him and it's not going to go unmissed. And so my children need to understand that. They need to understand that there are kids out there that don't get to live this life. They don't get to come to promo events like they do with me. My kids work in promo and have since they were like 10, 12 years old. They've all learned how to crawl and walk around in a radio station. My kids have grown up in radio. So how many can say that they've been exposed to that? My kids will go to a promo, they'll stick a shirt on, and they used to be there working the promos with the promo team. You know, my kids it shows them. I want to show my children that there's more to life than just sitting in this classroom, and it doesn't just work out for everybody. You know, school is important, but it's not for everyone, you know, and I need to show them that there are other things in life, that they need to keep dreaming, you know, because there are kids out there who can't dream, who won't dream because they can't see past their driveway. And that's really sad, you know. So being able to help my kids dream and show them that there's things out there, that there's a world beyond Auckland, that there's a world beyond New Zealand, you know, that's so important to me, you know, and as much as I can help them experience stuff while I'm in it, why not bring them along with me, you know? And I think that's always been my thing. Like, even when I had the babies, I would only take 6 to 12 weeks off. I'd go back to work. So I went back to work 12 weeks after I had my 10-year-old, and I'm in studio breastfeeding while I'm on the microphone. This is my FM, the hottest hip hop and R&B, you know, while the baby's on my boob. Nixon's like walking in going, holy crap, I'm so sorry, Kate. And I'm like, it's okay, whatever. Like, you know, but you just get it done. You just get it done. And look, if it starts to impede my actual job and my ability to do what I need to do, let me know and I'll make it work. Because at the end of the day, I've still got to feed a family. I've still got to keep a roof over our head and everything. And I've been through enough situations now where I'm not going to leave that burden on one person. And it's not that it's a burden. And my husband would, and he's gladly worked all his businesses and worked all his 9-to-5 jobs, because he still has full-time job as well, you know, and he still held it down for us while I'm at home looking after the babies, while I'm in hospital looking after the babies and things like that. And he just does it without any qualm. And that's it, you know. But for me, we are equal in our relationship, and there's got to be a time, you know, he's human too. He feels things too. You know, there's got to be a time where I can go, hey, at least let me look after you. At least let me be that person for you. You know, otherwise, you know, men just go through this life of, I need to be the rock in the family and I need to, you know, eat, sleep and shit work. You miss out on so much. You miss out on your children's growth. You miss out on home life. You have a strained relationship in a marriage, you know. So we're always trying to make it work for us, not anybody else, not for the Hollywood movies or anything like that. We're always trying to make it work for us, our family dynamics and our relationship. And he's taught me a lot about that, having a relationship, a real relationship, and what real love is and what that means. And it's been awesome. Like, I'm so grateful, because had I not met him, I would have probably gotten on a plane, left my FM early and moved to Australia with my family.
What a team. What a team, eh? I feel like we've seen Kelly.
Is there anything else you want to know?
Oh, no, seriously, I'm busting for a bit. You got held up at gunpoint and you didn't even pee. It'd be terrible if I peed during a podcast. I feel like we've seen Carlina today. Have we seen Carlina today?
Yeah.
When your young kids get older, if they happen to stumble across this and they listen to it, what would you like to part with? What message would you like for them to hear?
That's a really good question. That I love them, and that everything that me and their dad do, that I do, that I've always wanted to show them, and I always want to show them that there's more to life than what they see on TV. There's more to life than outside the driveway. There's chances for you everywhere, even though doors get shut in your face, slammed in your face. They won't even open, you know? And I think that, especially to my daughters, that you should always love yourself first and never stop dreaming. never stop thriving just because you have children, you get married, or you have a family or anything like that, because situations change all the time. Never stop dreaming, never stop giving up on things that you want in life, because that doesn't define you. And for my sons, find a really good, strong woman to stand next to you. No, for my sons, I'm lucky that I can say now that they are beautiful, and they're so respectful, and they're so loving and caring and kind. And I would hope that they are still those beautiful young men that I see now as fathers, husbands, partners, whatever they are, in whatever life. I don't expect my kids to be singers. I don't expect them to be radio announcers. I don't expect them to be anything that I am, and I never tell my children, at your age, I had a top 10 single. I was number one and this and that, and I got a Juice TV award and I got this. I never tell my children that. Never. Because that's not an expectation that I ever want to put on them. I just want them to be happy and to know that I love them no matter what, no matter who they are, what they're doing, anything like that. I love them no matter what. And that everything that I've always tried to do is to show them that there is more to this world than what they can see in front of them, and that they can do more in this world than what's in front of them, no matter what age you are.
It's so powerful. What a place to end it. Carlina McNabb, Kaylee, thanks so much. You're a great New Zealander.
Thank you.